Tianjin knew perfectly well that in primitive society, the greatest fitness is the key to survival. But it seemed to him that everything wasn't so bad, except that there wasn't even any cumin or chili here. At least in primitive society there were so many berries that Tianjin could make a good wine out of them. When Tianjin uses freshly made wine to cook his special fried fish, the local and wine flavor mix together and attract the attention of other animals. And Tianjin can use the meat of animals to catch fish. Many generations lived like this long before him. Thus, one big food chain is being completed and Tianjin is now, finally, standing at the very top of it. When Tianjin cooked the food he had mentioned earlier, a huge beast came to the smell and Tianjin was very proud that he would be able to get such prey. The beast headed towards the hunter, but immediately fell into a pit littered with leaves and sticks to distract attention. Tianjin walked up to the pit into which the beast had fallen and thought that this huge animal reminded him very much of a saber-toothed tiger. Then the beast angrily asked how dare someone like Tianjin attack in Mudaka. Tianjin was surprised that this huge beast could also speak. Then Tianjin told the saber-toothed tiger his name and said that he was a mechanical engineer. Tianjin remembered how he first came to this strange place, and now he caught a saber-toothed tiger with his own hands, which also knows how to speak. The saber-toothed tiger struggled to get out of the deep pit into which it had fallen, and Tianjin thought that all his attempts would be unsuccessful, and he would fall down again and again. But everything turned out to be completely different from what Tianjin imagined. Suddenly, the saber-toothed tiger ran up and jumped so high that it flew right over Tianjin, and Tianjin could not believe that this tiger could jump so high. Then Tianjin saw that the mighty saber-toothed tiger, Mudaka, was trying to escape, decided to lure him with spring food. Tianjin handed the saber-toothed tiger delicious and wine, cooked recently, the smell of which came to the Mudaka. Tianjin said that for the sake of meat and wine, the saber-toothed tiger did not kill him, but spared him. Then the saber-toothed tiger relaxed his vigilance and Tianjin sent him and decided to attack and escape. Tianjin grabbed a rope and tried to tie the Mudaka, and then grabbed a huge fish and ran. The Mudaka shouted at Tianjin not to run away from him. But Tianjin was not ready to say goodbye to his life yet, and told the saber-toothed tiger about it. When Tianjin ran up to the cliff, the saber-toothed tiger suddenly asked Tianjin to stop again. But this time his voice sounded even more threatening. Tianjin stood at the edge of the cliff and held a huge fish over his head with both hands. Tianjin asked the saber-toothed tiger if he would believe him if he said he could fly. To this, the tiger replied that Tianjin should try and jumped right at him. At the moment when the saber-toothed tiger was flying through the air in a jump, Tianjin had already managed to jump down from the cliff together with the fish. At the edge of the cliff, the tiger stopped and looked down. Tianjin flew on self-made wings and smiled at his victory. Finally, Tianjin shouted that the saber-toothed tiger shouldn't have believed him when he said he could fly. When Tianjin, to the great regret of the saber-toothed tiger, flew away, the Mudaka finally took on a different appearance and turned into a human. She was a young and beautiful girl. She angrily watched Tianjin run away and thought that next time she would not miss such an opportunity, and would definitely catch him. An army of people arrived to the girl on two-horned huge animals with 3 pairs of eyes. The Mudaka gave them all the order to stop, and they stopped. Then the girl threw a rope, similar to a vine, and hooked it on a tree, and then, flying into the air, landed on a branch of this tree with a jump. The girl began to observe some settlement and asked her people what kind of place it was. One of the people replied that it was just a small Yan clan. The girl thought for a while, and then informed everyone that they were going to the Yan clan immediately. Tianjin finally returned to his Yan clan. He stood and looked up at the sky, at the birds flying by. A discount from a huge fish was lying nearby. Suddenly, a huge rhinoceros with 3 pairs of eyes approached Tianjin. Tianjin carefully examined the animal and wondered where this huge rhinoceros came from here. Then a man with a spear approached Tianjin and asked why he had returned so late, and then informed him that the clan had very good news. Tianjin was slightly surprised by such words and did not answer the question he had just been asked. It turns out that today the Hagalu of a large tribe, together with Yan Kai, personally came to hold the awakening ceremony. Then Tianjin accidentally overheard one of his clan members asking the one who told Tianjin everything why he did it, because Tianjin is not that old yet. In response, the guy heard that although Tianjin is only 12 years old, he is still an integral part of the Yan clan, so it would be quite nice to let him watch this ceremony in person. The inhabitants of the clan crowded around the animal, which is called the great horned deer. Everyone was surprised that there really was a great horned deer in front of them. Someone in the crowd said that this was exactly what one would expect from Elder Huey's grandson, Yan Huey. Everyone thought that this time the awakening would still happen. People were confused, because the great horned deer was quite strong. Then voices from the crowd were heard again. This time someone said that Yan Hui had been raised by a great elder since childhood, so he could probably even become their Digulu. Tianjin stood behind the crowd and thought about what kind of value is in this horned deer, and what is the great strength of this fat guy who caught it. After some time, the grandson of the second elder, Yan Yong, appeared and brought the defeated great horned goat. Everyone crowded around and began to violently discuss what had happened and say that even 2 or even 3 people are not able to catch the great horned goat. But everyone understood perfectly well that Yan Yong, the grandson of the second elder, was not nearly inferior in his abilities to the grandson of the first elder Yan Hui. Someone said that perhaps Yan Yong could become even better than Hui, that the clan would be able to rely on him in the future. Then the vice captain of the hunting team, Yan Lun, came up and called Yan Yong and Yan Hui to him. Captain Yan Lung said that Yan Yong and Hui should put on a very good performance, as the awakening ceremony is very important right now. Then Captain Yan Lung added that Big Hagulu had personally sent Hahuku to see. Yan Yong was very surprised after Captain Yan Lung's words and asked if Hahuku would definitely come. The vice captain of the hunting team did not answer Yan Yong's question, but only said that he and Hui should work well and strive for awakening. At this time, Yan Jin was standing behind the captain and heard everything he was saying to Yan Yong and Yan Hui. Suddenly, Yan Long Capital sensed Yan Jin's presence behind him and turned around. Yan Jin greeted Uncle Long politely and with a smile on his face. Captain Yan Long walked up to Yan Jin and patted him on the shoulder, and then said that Yan Jin has a very powerful father. He never hunted, but the stone tools he makes are definitely the best. Therefore, Vice Captain Yan Lung advised Yan Jin to watch the awakening ceremony very carefully, because Yan Jin must certainly, according to the others, inherit the great glory of his own father, and Yan Jin himself understood this perfectly well. Suddenly, someone's loud footsteps were heard. Yan Jin and Yan Long looked and saw a giant man with a bulging body, who carried a large stone column on his shoulder. Yan Jin asked what was going on, but Vice Captain Yan Lung did not answer the question he was asked. Then a man with a column on his shoulder walked between them and stuck the pipe into the ground. Yan Jin could only think that this stone pillar must be incredibly heavy. Then the man lifted the column again and put it in place. Yan Jin saw his back, on which some kind of bear was painted. The man with the bear on his back lifted the column again, it soared in the air, and he jumped from the ground onto it. The crowd was shocked, but watched the spectacle with great interest. So the man installed several columns directly into the ground, so that the ground at the beginning of the column flew apart. The crowd started shouting words of support to this man, and he, still standing on one of the stone columns, shouted something about ancestral deities from above and a totem shining forever. And Yan Jin looked at him and wondered if this man was even human. The man asked Yan to bring all the children from the age of 15 and then he would be able to hold the awakening ceremony. The old man replied that it would be a great honor for them that such a great and powerful man, a totem warrior, would hold an awakening ceremony. Yan Jin was surprised when he heard about the totem warrior. Then Yan Jin looked at his hands and thought that the body in which he is now only 12 years old. It looks like he will have to wait another 3 years to meet the requirements. Yan gathered all the children from the age of 15. The totem warriors started telling them that as they know, they will be able to protect their clan only if they become powerful totem warriors. He said that a clan can be powerful and prosperous only if it has powerful totem warriors. Only the strongest totem warrior can use his powers to fight the darkness. He said that all of them must definitely become great totem warriors. Yan Jin thought about the words of the totem warrior, about the darkness, about the powerful power of the totem. He decided that there are many components, so it's better for him to just observe for now. The totem warrior said that the totem of this Yan clan is fire. The warrior said that he would direct the power of fire at the totem in order to help all these people awaken. If the awakening is successful, according to the totem warrior, special signs should appear on people's bodies. The totem warrior said that he really hopes that among all these people there is at least one person who will be able to awaken. This, according to him, is the only way for them to become totem warriors. After these words, the warrior announced the beginning. People stood in the center of the columns, which were placed in a circle, and the warrior directed the fire. Yan Jin looked at everything that was going on and thought that this totem warrior was probably giving his all and was not even afraid of being burned and dying. The leader of the Yan clan, Yan, stood next to senior elder Yan Lu and second elder Yanni, and said that it had been 5 whole years, but the Yan clan had not yet managed to awaken someone. The second elder, Yanni, said that he really hoped that Hui or Yan Yong would succeed. And so it happened. Both Yan Hui and Yan Yong succeeded. Senior elder Yan Lu shouted for everyone to look quickly, and that the two had succeeded. He was glad that now, from this very moment, their clan had successors. The leader of the Yan clan was also happy about this event and enthusiastically shouted that he saw everything perfectly. At this time, Tianjin stood behind everyone and thought that all these people are not materialistic at all, because awakening has absolutely nothing to do with the gods. Unexpectedly for everyone, some incomprehensible strange things flew out of the place where the totem warrior was and went straight to Tianjin. Tianjin was scared and covered himself with his hands to protect himself from the blow. There was a flash of bright light, but Tianjin was not hit. These strange things started swirling around Tianjin. It turned out that Tianjin was the third of those who were able to awaken. The head of the Yan clan looked at Tianjin in surprise and enthusiastically talked about how their clan was finally thriving. And senior elder Yan Lu could not even say anything. One of these strange things passed into Tianjin's body, and he stood in shock and did not understand what was happening at all. The totem warrior frowned at Tianjin and said that he had never seen such a light of fire before. He asked Tianjin to release his flame and let him look at it. But Tianjin did not understand what was wrong and whether it was some kind of problem. Tianjin then asked what it meant to release his flame and how he could do it. The totem warrior looked towards the others, those who were able to awaken, and said that Tianjin should just do the same thing they do. He should control the forces of the totem and then be able to release his flame. Tianjin scratched his head and said he didn't know how to do it. Then an elder intervened in the conversation and told the totem warrior that Tianjin was only a 12-year-old child. He had not yet reached the age necessary for awakening, so he could not do anything that the totem warrior required of him now. After that, the head of the Yan clan turned to Tianjin and told him that he just needed to close his eyes and clear his mind. The head of the clan said that Tianjin had just released the flame and he should try to do it again. Then he would definitely succeed. Tianjin agreed to try. He concentrated, closed his eyes, and tried to clear his mind. Then Tianjin opened his eyes, but found himself in a place completely unfamiliar to him before. He heard a strange sound, but could not figure out what kind of sound it was and where it was coming from. Tianjin then looked around and saw a huge black hole. Tianjin seemed to be sucked into this huge black hole, and after some time, he finally came to his senses and opened his eyes in the real world. The totem warrior asked him if he could feel the flames. Tianjin replied that he didn't feel anything. Then the head of the Yan clan intervened and grabbed Tianjin by the collar, began to shout that this simply could not be, because they saw everything perfectly with their own eyes. But Tianjin still insisted that he didn't feel anything at all. When the head of the Yan clan finally released Tianjin, the totem warrior asked if Tianjin had definitely felt absolutely nothing unusual, no flame, or some other totem. Then Tianjin asked if it was considered that he had seen a black hole, and the totem warrior asked him what a black hole was. The totem warrior asked Tianjin what a black hole was. Tianjin tried to explain as clearly as possible that a black hole is something that can absorb anything. Tianyang looked at Tianjin with a frowning face and asked what other black hole he was talking about. He asked for sure if Tianjin felt something and expressed his doubts that Tianjin was able to wake up at all. Yan Hui, who was standing behind Tianyang, said that it was probably true, Tianjin did not wake up, and everything that happened recently probably happened just by accident. Then other people who were standing nearby and heard the whole conversation also expressed their doubts about Tianjin's awakening. Some of the people said that they had never heard of blue flame before, so Tianjin's awakening raises some doubts. Another person from the crowd said that Tianjin is only a 12-year-old child, he is still too young to wake up. Then another person replied to their words that it could well be a divine gift from the gods. Senior elder Yan Lu turned to the head of the clan and said that the flame on Tianjin's body was very strange and asked Agula if it could somehow relate to the darkness. Then the second elder, Yanni, intervened and said that Tianjin was talking about some kind of black hole. Therefore, according to Yanni, Tianjin is definitely somehow connected with darkness. Then the head of the Yan clan turned to Huhuka, the totem warrior, and said that they were very ignorant and asked him to guide them on the true path of enlightenment. Huhuka furrowed his face angrily and said that he had never been in such a situation before in his entire life. But if it had anything to do with the darkness, then they would have to take action. Tianjin, who heard their every word, again began to assure everyone that he had seen absolutely nothing and there was no black hole at all, and that they could believe him if they wanted, or they might not believe him. Then Tianjin said that it was time for him to go and was about to leave, but Huhuka ordered him to stand still and, swinging at Tianjin with his hand, jumped up to him and wanted to hit him. But suddenly someone ordered Huhuka to stop, and he did not have time to hit Tianjin. His hand froze right next to his face. Everyone turned to the voice and saw the saber-toothed tiger. It was the same Mudaka that Tianjin had already met before. The saber-toothed tiger was slowly heading towards the crowd. Tianjin looked at the mudaka in surprise and couldn't understand why this saber-toothed tiger looked so familiar. When the mudaka took the form of a human and turned into a girl, Tianjin shouted that it was probably a demon and jumped right on the totem warrior. This girl was a mudaka of the King Man tribe, King. She came closer to Tianjin, who was still afraid of her, and said that they had finally met again. At this time, an old sorcerer who was sitting on the mountain was watching everything that was happening. Along with him was a young guy, his disciple, who was surprised that Tianjin's fire first appeared and then disappeared again. The old sorcerer said that this invisible fire is like an uncaught fish or an unattainable land. Then the old man said that the prophecy about the chosen man was finally beginning to come true. The guy who was standing nearby asked how it could be possible that the chosen one is really in this small and remote Yan tribe. The old sorcerer did not answer him, but only stood up and said that they definitely had to go right now. He opened the portal and they both entered it. The mudaka stood in front of Tianjin and looked at him carefully. Then the totem warrior said that Tianjin is a very strange child and asked the mudaka to rid them of Tianjin. The girl said that she could see for herself that he was a rather strange child. Then the girl came even closer to Tianjin and asked what his name was. Tianjin introduced himself and then the girl asked if he knew who she was. Tianjin replied that he knew she was a mighty mudaka. The girl looked at him with an angry face and asked if he knew who she was, then why couldn't he guess what she was going to do to him? Tianjin recoiled from the girl in fear, and then said that he was not quite sure what the mighty mudaka would do to him. But he was very afraid that he would not be able to avenge Grandfather Aluba. The girl asked who Grandfather Alubu was. The head of the Yan clan and the senior elder Yan Lu also did not know who Grandfather Alubu was, but they knew for sure that this person was not from their clan. Then Tianjin decided to tell everyone about who this Grandfather Alubu was. Tianjin said that Grandpa Alubu is a very kind-hearted person who lives in the mountains. Tianjin also told about how he once went to the mountains and during a dangerous situation it was Grandfather Alubu who saved his life. Among other things, Tianjin said that after all this, Grandpa Alubu still treats him well. Whenever they met, Grandpa Alubu would tell him about some of the animals that he had hunted very hard to hunt with Tianjin. Then Tianjin added that about a month ago Grandfather Alubu saved a white tiger. For his sake he went hunting every day, regardless of what the weather was outside. The girl looked at Tianjin with surprise and listened attentively to Tianjin's story along with everyone else. Tianjin continued to speak and said that this disgusting tiger, as it turned out, not only did not have the slightest sense of gratitude. In fact, on the day when the tiger recovered and came to his senses, he ate Grandpa Aluba. But apparently the elders did not see this as a problem at all. Second elder Yanni told the head of the Yan clan that Grandfather Alubu was apparently a very noble man, and it was probably the fault of the Yan clan. But the head of the Yan clan just laughed and said with a frown that he was a good person. Then senior elder Yan Lu added that they were very sorry, but the expression on his face spoke of complete indifference to the fate of Grandfather Alubu. Tianjin continued to tell how 2 days ago he went to look for Grandpa Aluba, but found only his skeleton and traces of the beast that killed Grandpa Aluba. Then Tianjin clenched his hand into a fist and said that after that he swore that he would avenge Grandfather Aluba and kill this bloodthirsty white tiger. The head of the Yan clan said that it was right and Tianjin really should take revenge on the beast for the death of Grandfather Alubu. And senior elder Yan Lu added that the head of the Yan clan was really right about this, and Tianjin should avenge Grandfather Alubu. The girl looked first at the head of the Yan clan and at the senior elder Yan Lu, and then turned her gaze to Tianjin and asked if the reason he attacked her was because he was trying to avenge the death of Grandfather Alubu. The elder was shocked by what he heard and wondered how it was possible that Tianjin really attacked the great mudaka. Senior elder Yan Lu was also shocked by his words to the mudaka. Then the head of the Yan clan fell to his knees and said that their clan was doomed because Tianjin attacked the great mudaka. One of the people in the crowd said that he could never have imagined that this child would attack the great mudaka. Another person replied that the punishment for attacking the great mudaka is death, but not only Tianjin will die, but the entire Yan clan will be destroyed along with him. Tianjin looked at the great mudaka and said that he was very sorry that he had made such an unforgivable mistake and attacked the mudaka, because the whole point is that she looks very similar to the tiger that is responsible for the death of Grandpa Alubu. In addition, Tianjin said that he considers himself a hero and therefore will not make excuses for his actions. But first he had one small request to the mudaka. Tianjin asked the girl to pardon his clan. Someone from the crowd called Tianjin a real hero. The second elder Yanni stood behind the head of the clan and with tears in his eyes said that this child seemed to have really grown up. The elder added that he could never have imagined that Tianjin could be so brave and courageous at such a young age. Then the mudaka thought that she might be considered bad if she punished everyone who was considered a hero. The girl said that it was all just wonderful and she was very proud of the Yan clan, as it has such heroes as Tianjin. Tianjin looked at the girl with undisguised surprise. But Tianjin was just laughing in his heart. He just wanted to give everything at face value, so now he will have to continue playing this game. The head of the Yan clan breathed a sigh of relief. The mudaka said that not only would she not punish Tianjin, but she would also give him a reward. He would go through the eternal Dalu ceremony. Tianjin asked what the Dalu ceremony was. Everyone in the crowd was very surprised and whispered about something. And the head of the clan enthusiastically shouted that the mudaka wanted a member of their clan, Tianjin, to join the eternal Dalu ceremony. Everyone started admiring the girl and shouting her name. Then the girl raised both hands to the sky and said that she, King, the daughter of the great Hagalu of the Kingman tribe, bestows, in the name of the mudaka, grants Tianjin of the Yan clan the eternal Dalu ceremony, and may the ancestors bless this hero with their protection. People from the crowd came up to Tianjin and picked him up in their arms, and then started throwing him in the air, and saying that this is a good job and he is a real hero. But Tianjin was clearly not enthusiastic about such actions. He asked them why they were doing it. The head of the Yan clan at this moment asked the girl what level the Dalu ceremony should be. Then the head of the Yan clan approached Tianjin, when he was already released, and said that the Dalu ceremony was a great honor for him and their clan had never had a hero Dalu before. The head of the clan told Tianjin to immediately kneel down and thank the mudaka, but the girl said that there was absolutely no need for this, because Tianjin honestly deserved it. She asked the head of the Yan clan to prepare everything necessary for the test. Tianjin was a little surprised when he heard about the test, and the head of the clan put his hands on his shoulders and said that the ceremony of the mudaka is the highest honor of the gift of the mudaka, and after Tianjin passes the test of life and death, he can become a real hero of Dalu. Tianjin thought about the trial of life and death and turned back to look at the girl. When Tianjin saw the smirk on her face, he immediately realized that this girl had deliberately framed him. Tianjin had to pass a very difficult test of life and death. He went to the water. There were a lot of sharks swimming there. Tianjin looked down with serious intent. Tianjin was well aware that it was very dangerous and was in a state of panic. He watched other people rejoice and did not understand why they were so happy. When Tianjin was wearing a suit, he cursed the mudaka king in his mind, because he understood perfectly well that she wanted him to become a hero of Dalu. But for this he would have to pass the test of life and death. Tianjin believed that such a reward could be death for him. Tianjin stood and asked if it was too late for him to give up. The girl, King, asked what it meant to give up. Then Tianjin chuckled and said that this means giving up on becoming a hero of Dalu, and remaining just an ordinary hero. In his opinion, this is also a pretty good option. But one of the clan members, Tianjin's uncle, put his hand on Tianjin's shoulder and told him to stop talking such nonsense, because the Dalu ceremony is definitely a gift that the mudaka personally presented to him. It's a great honor for him. Senior Elder Yan Lu added that it was right and that there was no place for weaklings in their clan. There was only a place for heroes. Second Elder Yan Yi tried to calm down Senior Elder Yan Lu, and told him to listen to what Tianjin was saying first. Then the man again told Tianjin to look into the eyes of every member of their Yan clan. He said that everyone dreams of being in Tianjin's place and going through the Dalu ceremony, and none of them is afraid for their lives at all. He then added that if Tianjin refused to pass the life and death test, he would offend the great mudaka with such an act and ruin the reputation of the Yan clan forever. He said that even if Tianjin had spared the mudaka, Grandpa Agalu would never have done it. The uncle said he understood perfectly well that it was all because Tianjin was probably worried about his father. Then he hugged Tianjin with one arm and shouted that at the life and death trial ceremony, the sacrifice was a great honor for the hero, and that he was completely confident that Tianjin's father would be proud of him. The head of the Yan clan also encouraged Tianjin and said that he should just do it, and the clan would definitely take care of his father, and told all the people of the clan to cheer for their hero. All the people began to shout in delight. The mudaka said it was time to start and everyone should get ready for the Dalu ceremony. Pieces of raw meat began to be thrown into the water where there was a bunch of predatory sharks, and they all quickly swam up to him, and some even managed to grab a piece of raw meat right in the air. The mudaka looked at Tianjin and said that he just needed to catch one Lulu fish, which should not be difficult for a hero like Tianjin. Everyone in the crowd shouted that the mudaka was right in what he was saying. Tianjin asked why the trial of life and death that he was told about was just fishing. The Mudaka replied that this slave Lulu is the king of this river, and only the one who can catch her can become a real hero of Dalu. Tianjin smiled and said that this trial of life and death is too simple. The Mudaka said that if it seems simple to him, then he can start. The head of the clan said to start the ceremony. People grabbed Tianjin by the arm and carried him. Before even Tianjin had time to recover, he was suddenly thrown into this water to the sharks of Lulu. Tianjin opened his eyes underwater and saw a huge shark approaching him with its mouth open. Tianjin surfaced and started asking to be rescued and pulled out of the water. The head of the Yan clan ordered one of his men to help Tianjin. The man went to the water and threw a bat there. Yankin caught it and then asked why he needed this bat. When a shark swam up to him, Tianjin hit it on the jaw with a bat with all his might and got out of the water. But the warriors immediately approached Tianjin and blocked his way. Tianjin asked them what they were doing now and why they were not letting him pass. They repeated that in the Yan clan there is only a place for heroes and there is no place for weaklings. Senior Elder Yan Lu pointed his finger at Tianjin and told him to immediately go back and accept the Dalu ceremony bestowed on him by the Mudaka. Then Tianjin told Elder Lu that he was not going to retreat at all, but in order to catch Lulu's fish, he just needed a weapon. Then Senior Elder Yan Lu looked at Tianjin in incomprehension and said that they had already given him a weapon, a wooden bat. Tianjin replied that he was, of course, a hero and all that, but he still needed a real weapon. Otherwise he would not be able to reveal his real talent. The head of the Yan clan asked the Mudaka if it was worth giving Tianjin some kind of weapon, to which the girl gave full consent. Tianjin thanked the girl and said that he would immediately run for the weapon himself and ran. The senior elder turned to the head of the Yan clan and asked how they could just let Tianjin go for weapons himself, because he could just run away from here, and then he didn't know what they would do in this situation. Second Elder Yan Lu replied that if Tianjin really decides to run away, and the Mudaka charges them, then their clan will be in great danger. The head of the Yan clan thought for a while. After some time, a totem warrior came up to them and told the Mudaka that Tianjin probably ran away, since he had been nowhere for a long time. But the girl said that Tianjin would not dare to do something like that, and just at that very moment Tianjin appeared, immediately apologizing for the long wait. Tianjin brought a very long rope with him. The people from the clan looked and wondered that he would need such a huge rope. They decided that he thought that such a rope would help him survive. Yan Yang thought that Tianjin was really making a lifeline, and Huey said that Tianjin was just a real coward and such things just insulted the whole Dalu ceremony. The totem warrior asked the Mudaka what Tianjin was doing. The girl replied that they should wait a little and just watch it and soon they would find out everything. Tianjin finally finished doing what he was doing and threw the hook with a piece of meat into the water. There was a slightly malicious grin on his face. Lulu's fish grabbed the bait and Tianjin pulled. Everyone watched this scene with undisguised surprise. Tianjin pulled the fish to the ground and said he had caught it. The Mudaka was as surprised as the others and asked how Tianjin managed to do something like that. Tianjin asked if she had ever heard of fishing. The girl asked what fishing was. Tianjin explained that the hooks he used were made from the bones of the great horned deer. They are very hard, so the Lulu fish cannot bite through them. Tianjin said that since Lulu's fish really likes meat, he just had to throw a piece of raw meat into the water and the fish naturally swam to the bait, tried to eat the meat, but got hooked. At this moment, all that had to be done was to get the Lulu fish out of the water. Then the girl asked in surprise how she hadn't thought of it before. Then the girl thought that if you use a similar method, then absolutely anyone will be able to catch a Lulu fish. Suddenly Yan Yang shouted that it was wrong and it was a scam, and Huey agreed with him and added that such a tool only disgraces the Dalu ceremony. Someone from the crowd said that this should be taken into account, even though Tianjin caught Lulu's fish. Another person from the crowd said that he completely agreed with Zai and Huey, because this is a Dalu ceremony, and the use of such things is unacceptable. But another person said that he considers it quite normal and also believes that passing the test of life and death can be counted. Then the head of the Yan clan told everyone to shut up immediately and asked what the Mudaka thought about it. Then the head of the Yan clan looked at Tianjin and said that he was still a small 12-year-old child. Then the girl asked Tianjin if it was possible to use this method to catch some other fish besides Lulu fish. Tianjin told her that if you know what the fish eats, it's enough to simply adjust the size of the hook. And besides, Tianjin added that he still caught the fish that he was told to catch. The girl briefly thought about the fact that the tribe has a shortage of food in the winter season, since all the animals are hiding. So if you use a similar method for fishing, the problem with food may be completely solved. The girl took the rope and decided to try it too. She looked at Tianjin and asked if she only needed to throw this rope into the water or if she should do something else. The girl threw the rope into the water, but nothing happened. She was a little upset, but Tianjin told her to wait quite a bit. She looked at Tianjin and asked if Lulu's fish should not come to her by itself. Tianjin again, but in a rougher tone, told the girl to just wait a bit. The girl frowned and asked how long she still had to wait. Then Tianjin shouted to her to pull the rope quickly. The girl was dragging her feet, and Tianjin was telling her to stall for time as soon as possible. Finally, after much effort, the girl finally pulled the Lulu fish out of the water. The head of the Yan clan stood and looked at all this in incomprehension, and the totem warrior stood next to him and also could not understand anything. The girl was jubilant and shouted that it was just some kind of madness. She was glad that she could do it, was able to catch the kingfish Lulu. Tianjin congratulated the girl on catching such a special fish. At this time, the old man from the mountain and his man were still watching everything from afar. The old man said that this was exactly the place and that the prediction had finally begun to come true since the elusive fish had been caught. The crowd stood and looked at the huge kingfish Lulu lying on the ground. Tianjin asked if the fish king Lulu really looks like this, because it seems that he had already seen a similar fish somewhere before. When they decided to set fire to this fish, Tianjin was surprised that this fish was not afraid of fire at all. The totem warrior confirmed that it was a Lulu fish, since it was not afraid of fire at all, and told the Mudaka about it. The girl said that this is very good, since the search for monsters is a very important step in the fight for the land of prophecy, so it looks like their Kingman tribe is already leading. The totem warrior asked what the Mudaka meant. The girl said that this is the same prophecy, defeat the monsters and enter the land of prophecy. The totem warrior said that no one had ever fulfilled this prophecy before. Apparently something has changed now. Suddenly, a voice was heard saying that the prophecy had finally begun to come true. The totem warrior asked who had come. Everyone began to fearfully expect what would happen now and told the old man not to approach. It was the old man from the mountain who came. Then the old man suppressed the warriors with his strength, and everyone immediately realized that he was a sorcerer. The Mudaka was surprised that the sorcerer's power was so overwhelming. The totem warrior was preparing to attack and told the Mudaka to be careful, but the sorcerer suppressed his strength, and the totem warrior could not even move. The Mudaka ordered everyone to stop immediately and said that the Mudaka from the King tribe greets the highly esteemed Dalumu. Everyone was surprised that it really was Lord Dalumu. Tianjin thought that this Dalumu was so powerful that even the Mudaka herself should bow to him. Everyone in the clan bowed before the great Dalumu. Tianjin looked at the old man's shoulder. There was an oracle hieroglyph on his shoulder on his suit, and this caused confusion in Tianjin. Tianjin thought that this old man was probably a real sorcerer. The Mudaka asked the old man what brought Vladika Dalumu himself here. Dalumu looked at the fish he caught and said that it was pretty good to catch such a fish. Then he said that he had come here to give them all a chance. Mudaka asked what chance. Dalumu said he decided to give them a chance to take part in the trial of mountains and seas. The clan members were seriously surprised by this. Then Tianjin remembered about this trial of mountains and seas and remembered that this fish Lulu is exactly a demon from the catalog of mountains and seas, Xi 11 fish. The description for it is exactly the same. Tianjin also realized that the symbol on the sorcerer's shoulder is a legendary symbol of the catalog of mountains and seas. He wondered if the catalog of mountains and seas could have existed long before civilization. The Mudaka said that by doing this the old man would spend part of his life. But the old sorcerer replied that he had already lived long enough, and it did not matter at all whether he would live a few more years or not. He said that this was his main task. Then the sorcerer began to conjure and the hieroglyphs of the oracle appeared everywhere. Tianjin was surprised by such power, and the head of the Yan clan asked the Almighty to bless the clan. Tianjin realized that this power was the power of darkness. Tianjin remembered that when he first came to this world, he was met by darkness. He becomes disgusted even if he just thinks about it. And, although Tianjin was not sure what was hiding behind this darkness, he knew for sure that there was nothing good so clearly. The only safe place is where totems shine, because the power of totem warriors comes from totems, and, in fairness, the fight against darkness is the responsibility of each of them. But Tianjin could not understand why everyone worships this sorcerer, who is surrounded by darkness, because when Tianjin only mentioned darkness, he was almost killed. The old sorcerer continued to conjure and probably he was already ill, and he could not stand it. His man wanted to help the master, but the old sorcerer said that he was alright. Then the old man said that all the heroes who are already 18 and younger can participate in the trial of mountains and seas. Everyone who successfully passes the test will receive a new totem pillar. Then the senior elder asked the head of the Yan clan if he had heard what the old sorcerer had just said and added that they had to pass the test of the mountains and seas in order to get a new totem pillar. The head of the Yan clan said that he himself understands this very well. The second elder added that this is a very good opportunity, and if everything succeeds, then their clan will have as many as 2 totems, which will significantly increase their power. The old sorcerer said it was a huge chance to fight for glory and for the clan and told them to fight. Then everyone started cheering and Tianjin thought that these cavemen were really very scary. Then the old man said that the children who want to join can do it now. Then the Mudaka of the king tribe said she wanted to join. She transformed into the form of a saber-toothed tiger and jumped into the portal. The old sorcerer thought that this junior is in Mudaka, so she's really special. Someone from the crowd shouted that no hero from the Yani clan is afraid of death, and they decided to follow the Mudaka. The old sorcerer said that this trial of the mountains and seas is very dangerous, and those who go to it will be responsible for their own lives. Huey said he would go anyway, and Yan Yang also decided to go to the test of the mountains and seas. All the heroes of the Yan clan were walking forward for their clan, and Tianjin was standing behind the whole crowd and did not know what to do. Then Tianjin decided that he could not compare with all of them and should just run away, but he was stopped. It was Uncle Long. Uncle Long asked why Tianjin did not go to the test of the mountains and seas. Tianjin said that Dalumu said it was a purely voluntary action. Then Uncle Long said that Tianjin is the hero of Dalu, even though the Mudaka has not yet given him this title. He is still the only one of the entire clan who participated in the Dalu ceremony. Uncle Long put his hands on Tianjin's shoulders and told him not to worry, because even if he dies, he will still be honored by descendants. Uncle Long pointed Tianjin to the portal and told him to enter this portal and pass the test of the mountains and seas. Tianjin tried to persuade Uncle Long, but it was absolutely useless because his decision had already been made and it was impossible to argue. Huey said that Tianjin was showing off again, and that he didn't look like a hero at all. Yan Yang said that it was true, because even at the Dalu ceremony, Tianjin used his strange tools and thus simply insulted the Dalu ceremony. Then Yan Huey and Yan Yang exchanged glances and approached Tianjin, grabbed him and told him to go with them, before asking Uncle Long for forgiveness. The old sorcerer thought about the invisible fire, and the elusive caught fish, and about who would still be chosen in 10 years, and who would save everyone. Tianjin crossed through the portal and asked what kind of place it was. When Tianjin looked around, it seemed very familiar to him. Tianjin thought that this was the same place he had been before. Yan Yang said that it is darkness and they are now inside the darkness. Yan Huey asked what they should do at all, because they had only recently awakened their flames, so going against the darkness would clearly be a futile undertaking. Yan Yang said that Yan Huey should not be afraid of anything, because as long as they all stick together, everything will definitely be fine. Huey said that this is how it should be, because this is just a test of mountains and seas, and not real darkness. Tianjin stood and thought about the trial of the mountains and seas and about the darkness. Suddenly, the voice of an old sorcerer was heard saying that King had already passed the first test. Everyone looked at each other in disbelief. Tianjin immediately recognized the voice of the old sorcerer, and wondered how King managed to cope with the first test so quickly. None of those present could believe that she had coped with the first test so quickly. Suddenly Tianjin shouted that it was time to attack and rushed to run somewhere. Tianjin turned to the others and said that they were heroes, the pride of the Yan clan, and it didn't matter what they had to fight and what darkness they had to go through. They simply had to always win. Yan Yang looked at Yan Huey and the two of them just stood there in silence for a while, and then rushed to run after Tianjin. Tianjin thought that since King completed the first task so quickly, it probably wasn't as difficult as it might seem, so even if there are some monsters here, they can be defeated. Suddenly, Tianjin began to notice that those who had recently been running behind him began to overtake him and he found himself at the very end. Then Tianjin shouted that all these people who are already 18 years old are just mocking him, who is only 12. Tianjin couldn't run anymore. He stopped near a tree and thought that the physical fitness of all these people was too high, and his weak body couldn't keep up with them at all. Suddenly Tianjin saw a cloud of dust, and then the heroes running back to him, who shouted for him to run as soon as possible. Then someone quickly scattered all the heroes in different directions, and Tianjin stood and still could not understand anything. At that moment, the one everyone called a monster appeared right in front of his eyes. It was a huge monster and Tianjin was even scared. Yan Jin stood in a stupor and could even move. Right in front of him was a huge purple monster with huge teeth and a bunch of spikes on its body. At that moment, Yan Jin was very happy that he was running behind everyone else and promised himself that he would never follow these cavemen again. At this time, the monster attacked another hero, and Yan Jin managed to run away to the side. Then Yan Jin, along with other heroes, rushed to escape from the monster. When Yan Jin turned around to look at the monster, there were already two of them. Yan Jin didn't understand what kind of world it was in general, and why there were suddenly two monsters. One of the heroes noticed a narrow gap in the mountain nearby and called everyone to run there. Suddenly there were three monsters. Yan Jin was well aware that one monster was too strong for them. But Yan Jin knew that since King had passed the first test, it meant she had met these monsters. Then Yan Jin noticed a wound on the body of one of the monsters and realized that he was right. These were claw marks and were probably left by King when she was in the guise of a saber-toothed tiger. Suddenly Yan Yang suggested that everyone split into 4 groups. 2 groups were to distract the monsters, and the third was to follow him and Yan Hui. Yan Yang said that just recently, 2 of them had awakened their powers, so they should be able to kill at least one of these scary monsters. Yan Yang said that everyone should listen to his order. Yan Jin looked at the guys with some disbelief, and then their faces lit up with fire, and Yan Jin was very surprised. It reminded him of the Ghost Rider. Yan Yang ordered everyone to go on the attack. Yan Yang watched with admiration as Yan Yang with a fiery face and hands, together with Yan Hui, went on the attack right at the monsters. The whole crowd rushed out of the cave to fight monsters. One guy who couldn't even get up crawled on the ground after everyone and asked Yan Jin to help him get up faster, assuring him that he was still able to fight. Yan Jin stood aside and did nothing. Another guy, who was probably also injured, took this guy by the arm, and they went into battle together for the glory of the Yan clan. Yan Jin didn't understand why they were doing this and only thought that cavemen were really very strange. Yan Jin also came out of the cave and looked around. His group was fighting 2 unharmed monsters, and the 2 guys who had awakened, Yan Yang and Yan Hui, were fighting one monster on the side. Yan Jin watched everything happening from the sidelines and did not know what to do, because his team was clearly losing in this unequal battle. Suddenly Yan Yang and Yan Hui attacked one monster and told the others to attack. They asked for this monster with a huge log pointed from one edge and pierced it through. The monster screamed loudly in pain. Yan Yang was very happy that he had already dealt with one monster and said that now they need to kill the other 2. But Yan Hui shouted that all this was absolutely useless and that another monster had appeared. Now there were 3 of them again. The monster they killed split into 2, and Yan Yang said that the more they fight with these monsters, the more they become. The other team's number of monsters also increased, which was not very good for everyone. Yan Yang got angry and shouted that he just couldn't believe that they wouldn't be able to defeat all these terrible monsters. Yan Jin was still watching from the sidelines and did not interfere in the battle in any way. He only thought that the fact that these monsters were increasing was beyond any comprehension. A huge number of monsters surrounded the heroes of the Yan clan. One monster attacked Yan Hui, the other attacked Yan Yang. They were lying on the ground, many of them could no longer fight. But someone else held a spear firmly in their hands. Yan Jin said that such a phenomenon is beyond the limits of science, although he had heard of pareidomy. The creatures in this case should not be exactly the same. Then Yan Jin added that such a thing does not go with energy conservation at all, and these words made him seriously think about energy conservation. Suddenly Yan Jin rushed to run somewhere. Yan Hui said that he knew perfectly well from the very beginning that Yan Jin was a real coward and would run away as soon as a good opportunity presented itself. Then Yan Yang told Yan Hui not to worry about Yan Jin, because they themselves and without his help will be able to cope perfectly with these monsters. But Yan Jin actually realized one thing, that the 2 monsters, when forked, became equal in strength to the most ordinary warrior. Now Yan Jin knew that after the separation, the strength of the monsters is also divided between them and they become much weaker than they were, which meant that if they were divided again, their strength would be weaker even than that of a puppy. At this time, the fight continued and Yan Hui asked Yan Yang what they would do now. Yan Yang replied that since they were the real heroes, they simply could not retreat, they had to win this battle. Yan Yang was ready to do anything for the sake of the clan and was about to attack the monster when he suddenly saw Yan Jin trying to do something and Yan Yang asked Yan Hui what Yan Yang was trying to do. Yan Jin said something about the lever principle, but it seems that no one understood what he was talking about, so their faces didn't look very pretty. Yan Yang turned to Yan Jin and said that if they attacked, the number of monsters would increase and that a person who had never participated in battles would not be able to understand it. But Yan Yang said that you need to look much higher and see further. Yan Jin told everyone to be careful, as it would probably rain soon. And Yan Jin started rolling a huge number of stone balls down the mountain, which rolled straight at the monsters. One of the men said there was no room left to defend themselves this time, so they just had to give their lives. Yan Jin jumped up and then turned, but then Yan Jin saw this monster right in front of him and thought that a real hero bravely faces danger, and battle is the fate of a hero. When the monster approached one of the heroes, the guy screamed and threw his bat. Suddenly, Yan Jin managed to grab that spiked bat and attack the monster. The guy behind was happily shouting that it was his bat, and Yan Yang was seriously surprised by the appearance of Yan Jin. Meanwhile, the monster was becoming more aggressive and Yan Jin could no longer fight with him alone, so he shouted to others to join him. The monster growled menacingly, but Yan Jin sent him along with his growl and hit him again several times with a spiked bat. Yan Hui asked how this was even possible, and Yan Yang was shocked that Yan Jin had suddenly become so strong. The crowd of heroes stood and watched Yan Jin fight the monster. Finally, the entire wounded monster was completely defeated and Yan Jin stood with a solemn face looking at his victim. Yan Jin said that he would leave this monster for other heroes, and he went to deal with other monsters. Two monsters stood in front of the crowd and looked at the heroes of the Yan clan, and the heroes looked at them. Everything turned out exactly as Yan Qin had assumed. The last generation was the weakest, but the first was quite strong. Yan Jin met the monster of the last generation and looked at his victim with a smile on his face. Then Yan Jin just decided to drive away this monster and the monster ran away. The voice made an announcement again. This time it was that Yan Jin of the Yan clan had passed the first test. Yan Yang asked with discontent and incomprehension what was going on here at all, and Yan Hui said not to ask him, since he was very tired and all he wanted now was to rest. But there was still a huge monster in front of them. Someone shouted loudly. At this time, Mudaka King was already undergoing the second test. She was standing, and there were some strange stone statues around her. In the center was a stone statue of a man sitting on a throne. The girl changed her appearance and turned from a man into a saber-toothed tiger. She rushed to the statue, but as soon as she began to move, traps reacted and huge stones flew into her. But the white saber-toothed tiger kept running. Yan Jin landed and fell straight to the ground so that a cloud of dust appeared. Yan Jin didn't quite understand where he was, but it seems this place was the entrance to the clan. Yan Jin saw the stone figures and King standing among them. Yan Jin was very happy to meet the girl and with an enthusiastic smile on his face rushed to run to her. The girl heard him and turned around and looked at Yan Jin with a menacing look. Yan Jin thought that since King still hadn't passed this test, it meant that it was very difficult. The old sorcerer was watching everything that was happening at that time. His disciple told him that after the master received the fragments of mountains and seas, no one had yet passed the second stage. King is the strongest of all the participants in the test, so the disciple asked if it was worth giving her some hint. The old man was still thinking about the chosen one and about the fact that 10 whole years had passed. King was still trying to pass the test, but when killing one stone statue, another new one would appear. And the girl said that she would kill 10 of them and then see if at least one of them could be reborn. The girl started using some kind of magic, and Yan Jin didn't understand what she was doing now. The girl used the king sorcerer's secret technique, shield blood vines, and aimed a blow at the statues. The girl was fighting a hard battle with the statues. Some of them were on horseback. They attacked the girl in response. King bound some of them with vines. Their arms, legs, and even heads fell off, but they were reborn again and collected in parts. King didn't know what to do now. Then King closed her eyes and tried to concentrate. She realized that according to the grand scheme, all the soldiers are now ready to attack her, but there is only one of them who does not move. It was the man who sat on the throne. Yan Jin opened her eyes and looked at him carefully. Yan Jin at this time was still standing behind the girl and watching all her actions from the side. The guy carefully examined the site where there were stone statues of soldiers and concluded that he had already seen a similar sight somewhere before. Suddenly Yan Jin saw that the girl was trying to kill the stone soldiers again. She used a thorn blood vine, a single dragon spear, and headed straight at the soldiers. She hit them from above and they began to fall apart into many pieces again. Soldiers on horseback were also attacked by her. Then the girl looked at the man who was sitting on the throne. He was guarded by 2 more stone warriors with swords. Yan Jin did not hide his surprise. He admired how strong and smart King was. The girl again took the form of a saber-toothed tiger and rushed forward. When King took off the head of the stone man who was sitting on the throne, everyone heard the voice of the old sorcerer again. King has passed the second stage. Yan Jin looked at it all with a smile. The old sorcerer and his disciple were still watching everything that was happening at the trial of the mountains and seas. The sorcerer's disciple said that this was simply excellent news. After 10 whole years, someone managed to pass this test. The disciple turned to the old sorcerer and said that this girl, King, was definitely the most chosen one they were looking for. The old sorcerer thought for a while, and then said that the student should not rush to such conclusions, because there is still a third stage that has not been passed. The disciple asked if the old sorcerer thought that King would not be able to pass the third stage. The old sorcerer said that no one has been able to pass the third stage for more than 10 years, so King is definitely talented, but it's possible that it's not her. Then the disciple told the master that the child named Tianjin was the only one of the students, except King, who was able to pass the first stage and move on to the second. The old sorcerer said that Tianjin, a child of the Yan clan. The disciple asked the master why he didn't just let Tianjin go home, because he had only passed the first stage and it was possible that luck would no longer be on his side in the next trials. Then the old sorcerer replied that sometimes luck can become a force, and since Tianjin has already reached the second stage, they simply have to let him go on and pass the tests. The student agreed with the old teacher. It's time for Tianjin to pass the second test. Tianjin stood and carefully considered his next actions. Tianjin realized that as long as he stood in the middle and did not step over the lines, the monsters on both sides did not move. When Tianjin took one step forward, a stone knight with a spear and on a horse immediately headed towards him. Tianjin screamed that he was going to die, but managed to duck and the rider jumped over him. On the other hand, the warrior wanted to attack Tianjin again, and Tianjin screamed again. Then Tianjin just abruptly sat down and stopped making even the slightest movements. He just looked around and studied the current situation in which he found himself now. Then Tianjin began to think about everything, because it seemed to him that all this was already familiar to him. Tianjin remembered that the horse moves straight and then diagonally, and the elephant moves twice diagonally. And at that moment, it dawned on Tianjin that this whole order, it could well be the most ordinary chessboard. Tianjin was still sitting with his eyes closed in the center of the stone figures. The old sorcerer and his disciple were still watching the passage of Tianjin. The disciple said that this child has been in the second stage for quite a long time, but he did not budge. He asked what Tianjin was going to do. The old man sat thoughtfully and was silent, and then asked what was wrong with King. The student said that she had already reached the third stage and was still sitting and not moving from her place. He said that she just needed to restore her magic power, which she had used up in the second stage. The old sorcerer said that it was very good that she was young and in no hurry. Then the old man said that they should still wait for Tianjin and see what he would do next. Yan King sat and thought that chess should be a game for two. The king on the opposite side means that the goal should be the king. But there is no king on one side. Tianjin exclaimed that he finally understood everything. Suddenly, he was almost hit by one warrior with a sledgehammer, but fortunately Tianjin managed to jump aside in time. Tianjin shouted that he would try his best, and then told the statue with the sledgehammer to move aside. A rider with a spear wanted to attack Tianjin, but he managed to dodge again, and the rider jumped over him. The disciple watched Tianjin and said that this child does not even understand what to do and where to go, so his luck will probably end here. Tianjin ran forward and stepped onto a tile with letters, so the game of chess began. Tianjin stood in his place with a satisfied smile. The disciple who was still watching was very surprised and rather decided to report what was happening here to the old sorcerer. The old sorcerer looked at Tianjin with some incomprehension and said that the system had changed for some reason. He asked the student why this could happen. The student replied that he did not know how it happened and he had never seen such a thing before. The old sorcerer asked how long ago it happened, and the disciple told him that it happened about less than a minute ago. Then the old sorcerer said that they should just look on and wait for what would happen. Tianjin moved the horse to the fourth row, and then moved the cannon to the third column, and then captured the elephant himself. Tianjin then said that by standing here, he feels that he can observe this whole board and can control everything from this place. Tianjin said that playing chess is very cool, and he was very sorry that he could only play one round. Then Tianjin said to hand him the king and the pieces moved again. Then he shouted for the king to be captured and now there was nowhere to run. Tianjin was able to pass the second test. The apprentice and the old sorcerer were still watching. The student said that this child's luck could be very good. Then the old sorcerer replied that even he had never met such an unusual strategy and asked if his disciple really believed that it was just pure luck. The old sorcerer told his disciple to go and announce that Tianjin had passed the second test and, like King, was entering the final, third stage of the test of mountains and seas. The disciple went to announce that Tianjin was able to pass the second test, and will be able to get to the final of the trial of mountains and seas. At this time, everyone in the Yan tribe was waiting for the trial of the mountains and seas to end. Some person told the head of the Yan clan that someone was coming out of the portal. Everyone immediately went to the portal and waited. Several people came out of the portal, among them were Yan Hui and Yan Yang. The head of the Yan clan asked them what was on the test of the mountains and seas. Yan Hui replied that they had failed, and Yan Yang added that they had not even managed to pass the first stage. Yan Yang bowed a log in front of the clan head and said that to his great regret, they simply did not have enough time. If there had been at least a little more time, everything could have been completely different. The old head of the Yan clan frowned and said that there was absolutely nothing to worry about, because the test of the mountains and seas is quite difficult, and to hold out as long as they all held out, this is already a great success. Then the head of the Yan clan asked who was able to pass the first test. Tianjin looked at the head of his clan and said that Tianjin was able to pass the test. The head of the Yan clan was very surprised and said that Tianjin is very young, so it is not known whether he will be able to go further and whether he will last to the end. Then Yan Yang said that Tianjin was just lucky to meet a weak monster during the passage of the first stage. He said that Tianjin still hasn't awakened the powers of his flame, and no matter how lucky he is, he still has absolutely no use without his skills. The head of the clan said that Yan Yang may be right, but passing the first stage of the test of mountains and seas is already very impressive. The portal started to close and everyone started to panic. The old sorcerer announced that King of the Kingman clan and Tianjin of the Yan clan are moving into the third, final stage, the trials of mountains and seas. So now the portal will close. Yan Yang said that it just couldn't be. The head of the Yan clan was surprised that Tianjin was able to go to the final stage of the trial of mountains and seas. The others were no less surprised than the head of the Yan clan. Tianjin moved through the portal again and fell to the ground. He began to get very indignant and ask questions about why it was impossible to move it properly. King was very surprised by Tianjin's appearance and asked how he was able to get to this stage. Tianjin sat on the ground and looked around, and then said that the third stage is very gloomy. Then he noticed the girl and said that it was a very interesting question about how he was able to get to this stage. Tianjin said that in order to break that huge formation of warriors, a lot of strength is needed. The girl thought about it and looked at Tianjin. Tianjin said that King must have seen for herself that the gate guard in the center was the key to breaking the formation. The girl said that among the formation, she could feel a very great magical power from that place. In addition, the rest of the soldiers were protecting the gate guard. Tianjin laughed and said that this was what he expected from the Mudaka. She turned out to be very perceptive. He then said that unlike her, he didn't have such discerning eyes, which was why he couldn't use such brute force. Tianjin said that when he was met by a cannon, he had nowhere to run, and therefore had to hit him with his bare fist, after which he himself was destroyed. The girl looked at him with some indignation and did not quite understand. Tianjin, meanwhile, continued to tell his story that then a horse galloped up to him and he had no choice but to fight, because he is a real hero and never retreats anywhere. Then he turned to the girl and said that she did not even imagine how dangerous it could be for him, because he was surrounded by soldiers, horses, guns from all sides, although it did not frighten him at all, so he continued to fight. Then he said that after all this, he was finally able to deliver several blows to the opponents, and then beat them half to death, and beat them until they started crying and calling for their mother. And the king was so scared that he knelt down and began to beg for mercy from him. But Tianjin did not waste a single second and killed the gate guard, so he passed the second stage. The girl still continued to listen to Tianjin's story, and he said that during the entire second stage, no one could even touch the edge of his shirt. Tianjin showed her his shirt as proof and asked her to look at the fact that he really has absolutely no damage on his clothes. King frowned, and Tianjin said that he assured her that she could leave all the monsters that they would meet on the way to him, because these are the affairs of a real hero, and he should not even be concerned with these problems. The girl looked at Tianjin and then pointed her finger forward, telling him that the third stage was there. In front of them was just a giant egg. Suddenly, the shell of this egg began to crack, and Tianjin and King stood and looked at it, not understanding what they should do now. They moved away and hid behind stone slabs to hide from a possible blow. The egg shell burst and a huge snake with red eyes appeared. Tianjin looked and asked what it was. The snake hissed menacingly and headed towards Tianjin and King. They stood and looked at the snake. Through this snake, they saw all the monsters from the previous stages. Tianjin hid behind the stone slabs again and said that it was definitely over now, and this time they would really both die here. King was very calm. The snake, meanwhile, was still there. The student said that he thinks this snake monster is one of the ancient monsters. The old sorcerer replied that he could not even suggest that this would be the final stage of the trial of mountains and seas. Tianjin shouted that he, like a real fearless hero, meets all monsters and asked who wants to fight with him first. But when the snake approached, Tianjin was a little scared. King came forward and Tianjin said that since she wanted it, he simply had to let her be the first. The girl tried to use the secret king technique and the bloody thorn vine on the snake in order to strangle the snake. But it did not help and the snake broke free from the shackles of the king, pushing the girl aside. The snake wanted to hit the girl with its long tail, but King managed to dodge and the snake's tail crushed the stone lying next to it into small pieces. The snake hissed again and had already directed its mouth towards the king lying on the ground. Everyone was watching in anticipation. The disciple and the old sorcerer were very serious. At that moment, Tianjin thought that King might well die now. But, fortunately, King managed to use a shield of bloody thorn roses to protect herself from the monster. Then King decided to use a single clash of blood spikes. She attacked the snake with her power, but the snake was still alive. Then King repeated the same thing again, and in addition used a bloody thorn vine. The disciple watched and thought that King had incredible strength. Tianjin thought the same way. The girl thought that she had already been able to defeat the snake monster, but after looking closer, she realized that this was not the case. The snake hit King with its tail again, and she flew back. The disciple said that even such powerful sorcery does not harm this monster. Then he saw that Tianjin was also trying to do something, and he became very curious to know what he wanted. Tianjin said that everything was exactly as he thought. It was free to rely only on brute force, so he decided that it was time to use his secret weapon. Tianjin suddenly took out a crossbow from behind his back and said that in most cases the weakness of such creatures is their eyes, and that the real strength of an engineer manifests itself in such moments of life. Tianjin took aim, calculated the trajectory of the wind, closed one eye and calculated the trajectory of the bullet in order not to miss and hit the target exactly. Tianjin then said that there is absolutely nothing in this world that cannot be solved with an arrow, and Tianjin finally released his arrow. But, unfortunately, he missed and did not hit the snake's eye itself, but slightly above the eye, so in embarrassment he ran back. But then, he decided that it was always necessary to use 2 arrows and decided to wait for the snake to crawl closer to him so that he could strike. Tianjin took aim and said that if it didn't work out to hit the target after the second arrow, then there is always a third one. Tianjin fired the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and so 10 arrows, and then a volley of 1,000 arrows. After Tianjin fired numerous arrows at the snake, the monster writhed in pain from the 1,000 arrows. Tianjin laughs and rejoices because he knew it would work. He shouts that this is called probability theory. The blue-haired man and the old man watching him are surprised that this child has magic, because, as it seems to them, he really hurt the monster. The old man says that this is not magic or the power of the totem, because he is mortal. Blue Hair is surprised that Tianjin is mortal. Meanwhile, the snake opens its eyes wide. Tianjin gets frightened and wonders if the weak point of the snake is not the eyes, and then he shouts that popular science books will destroy people. The snake attacks him with its tongue. Tianjin jumps to the side, screaming that he will die. The snake misses and the guy yells at Asshole to move faster and get up. Asshole gets up from the ground, limps and barely walks, and then falls to her knees again. Holding one hand with the other hand, she realizes that the bone is damaged. The snake is chasing Tianjin, who runs away from her with all his might in a hurry. Asshole thinks that this guy was now trying to find the weakness of the snake. The girl notices the arrows on the ground, thinks and understands that the weakness of the snake lies in 7 inches. And to be more precise, she aims at the heart of the snake, which is most often 7 inches from the head. She conjures a bloody thorn vine. Red thorns appear from her palm. These red plants with thorns first form arrows, and then the bow itself. She draws an arrow and aims at the snake, assuring herself that it must hit the target. She shoots an arrow, conjuring a heavenly arrow. She flies straight to the target. A kind of purple rings appear around the arrow, while Tianjin stood in fear of the snake taking him by surprise. The arrow hits the snake below the head. The snake is writhing and twisting. Tianjin tells Asshole that she hit 7 inches below her head, so he's sure he must die. At first, the snake lay motionless, but the next second the snake raises its head, which surprises the guy. Is it really useless to aim at the heart? He thinks that this is impossible, because there must be weakness, otherwise the test of mountains and seas would be impassable. He failed to hit in the eyes and heart. He wonders if this monster really has no weaknesses. Then he thinks that this is a classic of mountains and seas. King Lulai of Fish is a monster from the classics. He assumes that this big snake is also from there. He thinks hard and remembers that the giant snake from the classics has devouring powers. The information comes to his mind by itself that in ancient times there was a giant snake, which was called the boss snake, and it could swallow the sky and the earth while bringing great misfortune to people. He also remembers that there was a man named Hui who created the divine bow and arrow. He weakened the boss snake by shooting the red scales before killing the monster. After these thoughts, Tianjin yells to Asshole that he found a weak spot. He yells that it is red scales. He asks to help him. Let her use the bloody thorn vine in order to make the snake stop moving. Asshole yells at him that she will trust him once because she sees his resourcefulness with Lulu Fish. She uses the blood vine, grabs the snake from different sides, while Tianjin crawls on the snake and asks to hold on a little longer. At this time, those two observers do not understand what this child is trying to do. Does he really think that he can pierce the monster's scaly armor with a dagger? Asshole yells at him to act faster. He answers her that he understood everything. Tianjin takes a running jump with a dagger towards a single small red scale. He sticks this dagger in there, a huge snake opening its mouth wide in pain. A bright green light turns on at the scene of the attack. The two onlookers freeze in shock, and Asshole looks on with joy and hope. The snake wriggles in pain. It squeaks all over and creates turmoil with its sharp movements. Tianjin screams that he was right, that the red scales are her weak point. The old man is in shock and does not understand, does not want to believe that he really did it. Next to him, the blue-haired one also does not understand how this child could do this. At this time, Asshole also admires because the snake is unable to escape from her bloody thorn roses, and that Tianjin really was able to find a solution. Tianjin moves the dagger, but things are going slow. From the fact that the snake is constantly moving, Tianjin almost flies out, but he firmly holds onto the dagger with one hand. Just need a little more. Suddenly, Mudek is grabbed by the dagger and helps him. Together, they push the dagger deeper, causing the monster to scream in pain as the red scale spurts red. The snake squirms, causing the two to lose balance, and falls off of it. The snake wanted to get up, but a thorny thorn vine pulled it back to the ground. Tianjin rejoices and says that it's finally over. Asshole gets up, straightens up and asks how he knows what a giant snake's weakness is. He asks if she has never heard of the elephant that was swallowed by the snake paw. She does not understand at all and asks again what he is talking about. Tianjin clarifies that this is the snake who he decapitated, and its weakness is the red scales on its back. She remembers Hui and says that he is a legendary sorcerer. Tianjin does not understand what other legendary sorcerer is. She confirms this and says that he created the divine bow and arrows and knocked down 9 suns. Tianjin recalls the legend of Hui, who knocks down the sun. Mudak does not understand and asks how he knew about this, because most of such feats are only available to sorcerers. He justifies himself and says that it was Aluba's grandfather who told him about it. He can't tell her that he read the classics of mountains and seas. Suddenly, a trophy appears, a stick with a red ball on top and surrounded by a snake. The two realize that the reward has finally fallen. Then they sharply look at each other and immediately run to the award, hoping to be the first to take it. They jump, straighten their arms. Suddenly, Tianjin notices that the giant snake has opened its eyes. Her tail flies straight towards them. The guy pushes and protects the girl from the tail, telling her to be careful, and he himself gets hit. In the last moments, Tianjin sees the red eye of a snake, then a portal appears. While Mudaka and Tianjin lie unconscious, the two from the portal appear. The guy turns to the master and says that they are not badly hurt, and that they should recover after a few days of rest. The master says that he would never have thought that they would be able to defeat the boss snake. The guy says that the snake would have been defeated by King and Tianjin working together. He asks which of them will be chosen. The master says that the test of mountains and seas has decided everything, that Mudaka is the chosen one, and besides, she is his niece. He gives the order to send this child back to the Yan clan and reward them with a new totem pillar. The guy obeys him and conjures, touching the tip of his fingers with a stick. 2 days later, 3 overweight men are walking and chatting with each other. One asks if the Yao clan or the Lin clan sent anyone here. The other answers that they didn't at all. The third laughs and adds that they just got a new totem pillar, and that they should be terribly jealous now. Of course they wouldn't come. The old man says that with the new totem pillar, everyone will have a better chance of surviving the winter this year. The other agrees and says that it is right, because last year their clan lost a lot of people. A young guy comes to them and tells the Aggle that something terrible has happened. Everyone is waiting for news of what happened. Finally, he says that their new totem pillar has been stolen. Numerous people sit around the fire and talk enthusiastically about the fact that their Yao clan has finally been noticed by the gods. One agrees with him and says that it's all thanks to that brave presentation of lie played out by the leader. He even received the title of hero of the tribe as a reward. The other one sitting next to him says that the number of offers for him can be reduced by 20% in the future, and he can still win awards. So he will also eat meat today. Everyone shouts, congratulates on the return and calls the hero of the tribe. Everyone shouts the signature word Hatem and rejoices that their Yao clan has finally received a tribal hero. Someone shouts that from now on, the prosperity of their clan depends on the guy. The blue-haired one tells the Aggle that he has returned from time to time with another gift. He pulls out some object wrapped in a snake. The Aggle is surprised. Blue-haired throws this object into the sky. It rotates and increases in size. People understand that this is a totem pillar. One shouts and is surprised that the leader was rewarded with a totem pillar. The other says that this is the mercy of the gods. The blue-haired one shouts about the mercy of the gods and about the fact that the Yao clan is definitely on its way to prosperity. Others support him by shouting the word Hatem. People turn to Lee and say that this time his contribution is huge, and that with the totem pillar that was granted to the leader, they will be able to expand their territory. The old man tells him at dinner that the Yan clan, who just got their totem pillar, is also celebrating now. However, they will not be worse than them. They will even celebrate louder than them. Lai sips his drink and tells the Aggle that he did not tell everyone in front of everyone, but now he decided to reveal that he actually stole this pillar from the Yan clan. Agulu then asks if that means it's only a matter of time before the Yan clan comes to take revenge on them. Lee asks what they can do since he is the hero of the tribe and that they can't do anything to him. He closes his eyes and calmly says that the weak deserve to be robbed and only the strong deserve a totem pillar. Agulu says that he was destined for him, even if Dalumu has not yet dealt with this matter, nor will they necessarily tell everything before the council. Lee then offers to give it to them. He says that a long winter and eternal night are coming. Moreover, as the leader himself said, the winter will be even longer than in previous years. If they want to tell something, they will have to wait until the winter is over, and even without a totem pillar, it is unlikely that many of them will be able to survive the winter. He says that his clan has a totem pillar so that they can reduce the amount of lost lives. All they have to do is send a few people to block their hunting trails, and especially the message trail. Eventually, they will have to kneel before them. Agulu agrees and says that after they accept the Yan clan, they will have 3 totem pillars and their clan will become great. Lee gets up from the table, looks out the window, and then, after a short pause for reflection, says that there are thousands and thousands of clans and they usually respect strength, so no one cares about the cries for help from the weak. Agulu gets worried and suggests that people guard the totem pillar. They can't let the Yan clan take it back. He is obeyed with words in the name of the glory of the clan, Hatem. Meanwhile, there is a discussion going on in another clan. The chief Agulu asks what happened. The poor guy says that this is from the Yao clan, and that while everyone was celebrating, he managed to steal their pillar. Another states that Lai is the new hero of the tribe. The third notices that this is bad, and that the hero of the tribe only receives orders from the leader. They cannot do anything with him. The first one says it's unbelievable, and that if they can't do anything about it, then they need to attack the Yao clan. He tells the Aggle to let him take some people and get their totem pillar back before it's too late. The other tells this elder to calm down, because they are weaker than the Yao clan. If they attack mindlessly, they will definitely lose. It would be better for them to make a plan first. That elder resists and says that they do not need any plan, and that the calmer is always afraid of everything. Will they really wait for the Yao clan to prepare for the attack, and then they will all die here? Agulu orders them to stop arguing. In silence, he puts his hand under his temple and tries to think of something. The third person behind says he has an idea. He offers to challenge the Yao clan to a duel, and then the winner will take the totem pole. He is asked if he really thinks he is stronger. He angrily says that he is definitely stronger than the one who asked this question, and that even if he cannot defeat him, he cannot allow them to look down on them. Someone suggests that the Agulu tell the tribes about it and that Mudaka will definitely help them. Another remarks that the idea is quite good, because the totem pillar was given to them by Dalam, so, of course, Mudaka take care of it. The third says that winter is coming, they have no way to send a message and they will have to wait until the winter is over. Then that person gets angry again and says that while they wait, their Yan clan will suffer serious losses. Suddenly, another turns to the Aggle with a bow and says that, in his opinion, they need to listen to the opinion of Jin, because it was he who won the totem pillar for them. He believes that he will judge their dispute. Someone resists and says that he is just following asshole, because he did not even pass the test. He says that the reason Delumu gave them the totem pillar is because everyone worked hard for it. He doesn't think he would honestly give him all the credit. They agree with him and say that in the first place, they can't even see rest because of the constant battles with monsters, and he couldn't stop all this. They turn to the moon and say that even if he has some merit, he is too young. He has not yet reached his heights. Is it not too early to consult with him on such matters? According to the man who calms the moon, Agula sits with her mouth open awkwardly, not knowing what to do. He is told to give the order for war, and that he can leave it like this. Agulu says that Tianjin is only 12 years old, and that when he was 12, he was already hunting in the mountains. He is asked how Tianjin can compare with him. Agulu says that there is no question of any comparison here. The advice of their clan depends not only on him, but also on all other members of the clan. After these words, the Agulu asks to call Tianjin here. Tianjin arrives and is told what happened. He notes that he contributed to getting the pillar, then he asks what he thinks about it. That aggressive one again says, "What is there to think? They will return the glory of their Yan clan in battle and wash themselves with fresh blood." Tianjin waves his hand and says that they don't need fighting and killing now. He says that he thinks they can resolve the matter peacefully. That Lu, more and more furious, does not understand how peaceful it is, because they always come to their clan to attack. What kind of world can be discussed? Long tells him not to get excited and asks him to listen to Tianjin better. Tianjin is told not to be afraid to voice his ideas. Tianjin says that in 5 days he will return their totem pillar. Tianjin says that in 5 days he will return their totem pillar with such confidence and shining eyes that it surprises and makes him doubt his idea. Long says that's nonsense, so let him think about where he stands before saying such things. He is again told to calm down, and Jin is told that now is not the time for jokes, so if he has any ideas, then let him tell them. Tianjin tells them what they will see for themselves when the time is right. They call him a jerk and say that he wants to deceive them. Why would the Yao clan return the totem pillar? Tianjin says that if he can't do it, it doesn't mean that Tianjin himself can't. Long tells him to stop talking like that and leave. Tianjin proudly started to leave, but he is stopped, and then they turn to the Aggle, saying that Jin has always been smart. He suggests that he might have a good idea. The guy who asks to wait for Tianjin is called Grandpa, and told that he can't trust this guy because the only thing he knows how to do is to flaunt his nonsense. If you let him do whatever he wants, he will force them clan suffer. This Jan is ordered to keep quiet. Yang starts to argue. Did he say something wrong? What is he worth? He has not even matured. Tianjin does not deserve to stand here in his opinion. The next second, Grandpa slaps him, telling him to shut up. This grandfather then turns to Tianjin and says that although Delumu awarded the Yang clan with a totem pillar, most of the merit still belongs to Jin, because without him they would not have a totem pillar, whether Yang realizes it. Jin is then told to do what he wants and that they will support him. The other person tells the Aggle that he cannot let him do it. Agulu asks if Tianjin is sure that he can do it. He confidently answers that he can. Then Agulu says that he will give him 5 days, and if he needs something from the clan, he cannot be afraid and ask. Tianjin says it's not such a big request. He just wants to eat fried chicken thighs, and the biggest ones. Agulu is told that since they let Jin handle it, they must trust him. Agulu tells him to order everyone to cooperate and fulfill all his requests. In the meantime, there's still a debate going on inside if they're really going to let it bloom like it is now, because the totem pillar is at stake. Long says the Agulu has already issued an order. They should just follow the rules. He doesn't believe Jin can do it. He offers to wait and then they will see how he does in 5 days. On the second day, Tianjin eats chicken thighs appetizingly around the campfire. Behind him, evil people are talking about how he boasted that he could bring back the totem pillar in 5 days. However, he only eats and drinks all the time. The other picks up the statement and adds that all he can do is show off to people. They are eager to see how he will behave in front of the Aggle when the time comes. On the third day, everything is exactly the same. One says that the boy only knows how to eat every day. Everything is already clear, in his opinion. He is trying to deceive the Agula in order to eat well. Another adds that Tianjin only said he would do it, but he really can't do anything, which is why he is called the disgrace of the Yan clan. And Tianjin himself still eats chicken thighs appetizingly. On the fourth day, those two still continue to discuss him, that he is finished, and that the Agulu will definitely not let him leave. The other says that not only the Agulu, and that even they will not forgive him. The two who are at the meeting and were against Jin tell him that it's good for him because he is still eating. The second tells him to cherish the food he has and eat more because tomorrow he won't have a chance. The first one again says that when the time comes, no one will feel sorry for him. Let him wait and soon he will eat tree bark. They complain about him that he did nothing for the last 5 days. Grandpa says that he knows how everyone has grievances against him. However, since they passed the case on to Jin, they must trust him. The second elder asks Jin not to blame everyone as the clan is just worried about the totem pillar, and that it's all for the clan's sake. Jin tells him not to worry because he himself understands this. The second elder says that he has nothing more to say then and orders everyone else to return and have a good rest. The crowd leaves angrily, saying that the second elder is so kind and that Jin does not deserve his protection, and that it's all because of this guy's nonsense, because he makes the second elder and the entire clan suffer. On the morning of the 5th day, all the people were furious. They stand outside Jin's house and tell him to go out and show him where the totem pillar he promised. Let him move and come out now. Some provoke, saying that this scammer has a thin gut to get out. While he combs himself and prepares for something, they say that he did nothing in the clan all these days, and that they should have punished him long ago. He calmly leaves the house, saying that everyone is so busy today. The crowd is even more furious. Does he still dare to show his face? Someone asks to make way for him, and that he should teach him a lesson. Jin descends and is immediately asked where the totem pillar is, because he said that the Yao clan will return the totem pillar within 5 days. 5 days have already passed. Behind the second elder sighs heavily, and accusations are thrown at them that they were so blinded that they supported this child and his stupidity, so let them now see what Jin says to them. Then the old man turns to Jin and says that if he is unable to do so, then at least he shouldn't boast so much. He not only failed to return the totem pillar, and even slowed down their chance to fight. Behind, people are shouting how shameless this guy is and that he himself made this mess, but he also forces the elder to clean up after him. Everyone thought he was a genius, but in fact he is just a child. The old man yells at his warriors that they have no choice and that the Yan clan would rather die than be humiliated, so let them prepare their weapons and then they will definitely win. Everyone begins to support him when suddenly a messenger arrives. They ask him what he is shouting and calling for, and he says that people from the Yao clan are here. Yaos come to the Yan clan's plot of land. Lu orders everyone to get ready and gather at the entrance. Jin notes that they are on time. Agulu Yan yells at Yao that he dared to show himself here. He, after a silence, gives the order to bring something to them. They carry a huge totem pillar. The Yan clan freezes in shock. He says it's the totem pillar that Dalumu gave him. They're returning it now. The Yan clan wonders if they really just returned and don't have to fight now. They discuss whether this is really Jin. Did he really do this? Someone resists and says that those stupid things should not be said, because Jin is not able to do it. On the sidelines, Lu doesn't understand how this kid could do this. Agulu Yao says that the totem pillar has been returned to them, so they are returning back. Agulu Yan orders Lung to immediately bring the totem pillar, which obediently obeys. Unexpectedly, Jin stops them and tells them that they will not accept the totem pillar. Uncle Long tells him not to talk nonsense and hurry up to accept it before they change their mind. Jin doesn't want to do this and says they took the totem pillar away from them. Are they now letting them go just because they got it back? It can't be that easy. Agulu Yao turns to him and asks what he suggests they do. Jin says that they should apologize to the Yan clan and then make up for their loss. Agulu then asks why not, then tell him what he wants to receive as compensation. Jin says they should give up 10 miles of hunting grounds on the northern mountain and let their Yan clan hunt there. Agulu Yao tells him not to go crazy and that he won't give him an inch of hunting grounds. He comes close to Jin and tells him to let him know that they will definitely accept the totem pillar today, even if he doesn't want to. He screams that this is survival in this world. Didn't he say that he stole his totem pillar? Well, if he did, let him blame his clan for being weak, so they deserve it. After these words, he gives the command to his people to leave and was about to leave. But then Jin again asks the question, have they really decided that they can leave? Agulu turns and asks menacingly if he really wants to start a war against the Yao clan. Jin yells that they sneaked up on them and stole the totem pillar. Now they gave it back to them after they got tired of playing with it. They don't care about them at all, so the heroes of the Yan clan won't accept his actions like that. Here, Uncle Long tells Agul Yan that Jin is right, because if they just take the totem pillar, they will be left without self-esteem. Jin turns his head back and calls on the clan members, the clan's ancestors, to answer him whether they will accept such actions or whether they are heroes who fight for their glory. The crowd gets excited and shouts that this is true, and that they are not cowards. In the Yan clan there are only heroes, not cowards. Everyone screams and does not want to accept this. The Yao clan wants to trample on their honor and dignity. Can they put up with this? Yan Jin shouts that for the sake of their dignity, for the honor of the clan, they will not spare anyone. The whole crowd repeats after him and supports him, shouting the word Hadim. Agulu Yao starts to panic. He tells Yan Jin to think better about the consequences of the war with the Yao clan and calls him a brat. Yan Jin says that then he also needs to think carefully about how many clan members they have left. Agulu Yao's eyes widen. Sweat is dripping from him. He stammers out the question of how he knew about this. 2 days ago, the Yao clan heard loud laughter. Many men are sitting at the table, and an Agulu is at the head. They appetizingly eat meat, and the girl next to them pours them drinks. Agulu asks, laughing, what they think the facial expressions of the Yan people will be when they discover that their totem pillar has been stolen. One says that even if they notice this, they won't have the courage to come and take him back. The other agrees with him and says that they are all cowards. How can they compare to the bravery of their Yao clan warriors? Agulu laughs even louder. He says that when the winter is over, they will have time to conquer the Yan clan. Odin stands up and says let them lead the conquest when that time comes. Everyone supports him, saying that it was well said and that they will make them pick wild berries for themselves. Suddenly, someone freezes, and then abruptly falls face down on the table. The people sitting next to him do not understand what happened to him. Everyone gradually begins to lose balance. One says that it is so uncomfortable. The other does not understand what is happening and also loses consciousness. Agulu asks what's going on. He quickly goes out and asks someone to help, but he realizes that the people outside are also unconscious. He screams in panic, what is going on here? Meanwhile, Yan Jin stands at the threshold of this tribe's village and says it's time to start. The guy sitting at the gate, apparently the guard, asks who he is, and then, judging by his appearance, he shouts that this is a lord. Yan Jin says that looking at the situation, he would say that this is not just a curse, but a punishment from Dalumu. They begin to report to him, saying that the Yao clan would never insult Mr. Daluma. Why should he punish them? Yan Jin takes out a flask of something and says that he doesn't know what they did, but this is their punishment. He holds out a certain pill and tells people to eat it. Those first sit in doubt and then swallow a pill. One says that his body feels much better, then both bow before him and beg him to help them lift the curse. Yan Jin seriously says that it only relieved their symptoms. The curse cannot be lifted unless they take care of its root cause. He is asked then what is the reason. Yan Jin tells them to think carefully if any of them have brought anything related to Dalam recently. One thinks out and repeats aloud about the punishment of Daluma and suggests something. Yan Jin leaves, warning them that in 3 days the curse will forever remain on this piece of land, and that everything depends only on themselves. Returning to the present, he comes to the Yan Agulu clan with 2 guards that Yan Jin talked to. Agulu wonders if this child might know about it. He asks the Yan clan if they prepared this child to represent their clan. Meanwhile, in the background, the second elder tells the Agul that they should negotiate peace instead, and Jin does not understand the full significance, so let him move away. Another tells the Agul that the Yao clan is stronger than them. They can't let Yan Jin provoke them blindly. Suddenly, Uncle Long calls for the warriors of the hunting party and says that even this child is in front. How can they retreat then? Everyone starts cheering and shouting their signature word. The Agulu says it's true and that the Yan clan warriors are never afraid of battle. The head of the Yao clan tells them to think carefully when it comes to tribes. He is interrupted by Yan. Jinny says that after all, the totem pillar was given by him to Dalam himself. They shouldn't be afraid even if Mudaka hears about it. Agulu of the Yao clan starts to get angry. Yan Jin points his finger at him and asks if he didn't say that the weak should be laughed at. So today Yan Jin will laugh at the head of the Yao clan. He did not reward them with his land, so they will go to war. Everyone shouts and supports that this is right, that we must fight, and that we must give up the land. The people from the Yao clan want to pounce on him already. Yao's Agulu stops and thinks that if only his warriors were not cursed and could fight, this child would have no right to boast. Jin pulls him out of his thoughts and says, if he thought about it, that the axes of their warriors were unbearably hungry. Agulu Yao is immediately nervous and says that they will compensate them for 5 miles of the northern mountain. Jin laughs and asks if the Agulu is deaf or dumb. Agulu Yao becomes seriously angry. Jin shouts that he said about 10 miles of hunting grounds and no more. Agalu starts losing his temper. Someone behind him offers to leave the totem pillar with them, and after 4 days, when the curse takes effect on them, then they will have the last word. Agalu agrees and says to give him these 10 miles and orders to leave already, but suddenly the clouds in the sky begin to thicken and cover the sun. They are shocked and do not understand what is happening. Even Tianjin himself is shocked and asks what it is. Numerous crows fly in the sky. Someone screams that the endless winter is near. In the next second, the birds dissolve and skeletons remain of them. Agalu Yao says he didn't expect winter to come so soon this year. Tianjin wonders what kind of winter makes the sun black. It's unscientific. Agalu Yao distracts him from his thoughts and asks what else they want. He gave them the land for hunting, whether they are going to accept the totem pillar or not. Long says they'll be more comfortable surviving with 2 totem pillars and 10 miles of hunting ground. Another says they'd better just accept it. Don't annoy the Yao clan anymore. Agalu Yan says to return the totem pillar back to their clan. He is obeyed. He tells Yao that their clan accepts his apology and that he had better go back and prepare for winter. Agalu Yao rudely says that the Yao clan doesn't need his care, so it's better to take care of your clan. After these words, the Yao clan leaves the lands of the Yan clan. Jin runs to Uncle Long as he orders the totem pillar to be carried carefully and not damaged. Uncle Long says that his game was not so bad now, and he defended the honor and glory of their Yan clan. Jin replies that he didn't do anything difficult. But what about the sun is what worries him. Uncle Moon replies that the endless winter night started early this year, and that now is not the time to celebrate. Jin looks up at the sky again and doesn't understand what endless winter nights are. Uncle Lun reveals that during last year's endless winter nights, 37 of their clan comrades died. He is surprised, saying that there are only 200 people in their clan. Uncle Long pats his head and tells him not to worry, because this year they have him, who won a totem pillar and hunting ground for them. They will definitely be able to survive this winter. Suddenly the Agalu calls everyone and says that they now have a new totem pillar and hunting ground. This is undoubtedly good news, but they do not have time to celebrate it, because the day when the night devours, the endless winter night, is approaching. He yells for everyone to gather a team of hunters. They will go north and find new lands to hunt. Let them prepare for battle against winter. Everyone enthusiastically supports and shouts. Agalu announces that Lung will lead the hunt team this time. Agalu also speaks of a new generation of heroes who have only recently awakened their totem pillar powers, that they are the future of their clan, and that this time they will participate in the hunt. Tianjin is already evading and does not understand what he is thinking, because only the strongest go, those who can survive this winter, which means that he does not go with them. At this point, the Agalu yells that as an exception he wants Jin to join the hunting team. Tianjin is already choking. Other people begin to deny, saying that Jin cannot join because he is too small. Another shouts that he thinks it is against the rules. Tianjin himself agrees and says that they are right, because it is against the rules. Agalu replies them that even though Jin has not yet awakened his totem pillar power, he went through the trials of mountains and seas, and forced the Yao clan to return the stolen totem pillar. He believes that Jin is unusual. His joining the hunting team is only improve his skills. Tianjin stands and silently begs not to. He just wants to be a good boy. Agalu asks what they think about it. Does anyone have anything more to say? Behind, the crowd begins to say that he is a capable fellow and that they will look after him. Jin is completely drooping. He is told that they have no objections, and Jin asks them not to be afraid to express dissatisfaction. Suddenly, Jin himself stands up and shouts that he has an objection. In his opinion, he does not have enough strength and is not suitable for such responsibility. Uncle Long puts his hand on his shoulder and tells him not to talk like that. He looks at Jin with glowing eyes and says that even though he is so young, he is already a hero. He was even touched by what he said to the Yao clan at that time. Uncle Long puts Jin forward and tells him not to worry, because even if he dies in the mountains, he will still be a great hero of the Yan clan. Agalu intervenes and asks in what sense he will die. Jin will only observe and gain experience. Jin knew they would say so. Someone reappears and says that it is against the rules. Someone argues and says that Jin is an exception. In his opinion, nothing bad will happen if you let him try. Agalu says that even the second elder supports this decision, so it's decided. A drooping Jin sits on the sidelines and draws something on the ground with his index finger. They are all given orders to go home, and that they are moving out tomorrow. Lu turns to Yanni and asks what is wrong with him. He always takes the side of this boy. Yanni asks if he has not yet realized that the Agalu is specifically trying to train Jin. because he probably wants to put him in his place in the future. Lu doesn't believe it and just leaves. Following him, Yanni says that if you compare their grandchildren with Jin, then they still have a long time to train before him. Meanwhile, the blue-haired guy who stole the totem pillar is watching all this. He looks at Jin and says that he will remember him, let him hold out for another 3 days. Then the Yan clan will be enveloped in the curse of Dalumu. He puts his hand on the tree in a rage and says they'll see what happens to those 10 miles of hunting ground when that happens. After these words, the tree just flies away from his hands. On the way to hunt, the guys laugh and point to a bag that can move. It turns out that Jin is carrying a huge bag that looks like a ball. They do not understand what he is doing. Uncle Long asks what kind of bag it is. He replies that it's just his things, because the Agalu told him to just watch them, so he will do. Yanni then tells him to be careful, because hunting is not fishing for him. The beast will not let him catch himself just like that. Another adds that a true hunter relies on his strength and courage. Jin listens to this and has zero reaction from him. An overweight guy comes up to him and tells him to just watch and learn. They laugh and say that he can definitely become a good hunter. Uncle Long tells him to believe in himself, then tells everyone else that the time has come, so they should already be moving. They notice the bull golden in horns and hooves. Jin admires and says that this bull is comparable in height to a mountain. While he stood and looked at the bull, all the others at once pounce on him. Jin watches and enjoys the sight. He shouts that Tarzan is back again. They attack him with all sorts of weapons, but the bull does not react in any way, but only makes them fall down. Someone clings to the bull's leg and yells for him to fall already. Jin, as a leader, shouts that he is watching a Tarzan fight against a bull. Are all primitives really so ferocious? The bull shakes his leg and the man just flies back. The bull growls at certain people, and at this time the other 3 grab him by the ears and the hair near the face. But the bull does not calm down and shakes his head violently, which one flies off and wounds him in the chest. Jin stands up and yells that he must save him, but the guy abruptly stands up and says that he is not dead, causing Jin himself to be scared of such a reaction. The guy sees the blood, trembles and writhes in pain, and then bandages it with a white rag and shouts that he needs to go back to the battle. Jin wonders if it worked. Another jumps up and throws a spear right at the bull and finds his weak spot. Everyone understands that they have found the weak spot of the bull and attack all together. All spears fly to one place of the bull, after which the animal surrenders and is defeated. Jin, who has been watching all this, laughs and says that it is too cruel. He does not think he can learn this way of hunting. Uncle Long comes up to him and asks after clearing his throat how he feels. Jin turns around and says he's fine. However, he points out his wound. Uncle Long tells him not to worry. Courage is the key to hunting, so let him not be afraid to get hurt, and that he himself will soon get used to it. Uncle Long puts his arm around his shoulder and tells him that after he rests, they will defeat them together, and points to a huge sharp-toothed alligator and an iron-backed bull. Jin disappears with the bag, screaming that he has found a bigger beast, and that he will defeat him himself and says goodbye. Everyone remains confused. Jan is asked if he believes him. He repeats the question and replies that he will be lucky if he can even catch a rabbit. Already in the evening, when clouds and dead birds again cover the sky, they discuss that the hunting ground in the north, as they expected, is good. They agree with this opinion and say that it is true. This time they have a big prey. They are glad that they will finally eat meat. Uncle Long says they had a good hunt today. He tells them to get their game because it's time to share it. Everyone takes turns placing the different animals they have defeated. Jin just stands aside. They ask him where his prey is. Yang says what kind of prey he can have, because he returned empty-handed. Everyone is standing and waiting for at least some kind of reaction from him. 2 cannot stand it and shout to him that they are actually talking to him. He stops eating his apple, and then throws it into the place where they share their prey. He points to the bitten apple and says that this is his prey. Everyone is shocked by this behavior. They cannot accept that his prey is a fruit. Jin stands in the middle of the crowd with a satisfied face, proud of his apple. Uncle Long says that he should keep this fruit for himself, and then, changing the subject, tells them to hurry up and start dividing the booty. They stand at the table and see a pile of meat, which surprises Jin in the first place. He says that joining the hunters is a great thing. If they have the opportunity, they should all join. Jin takes a huge leg of meat and says that the way of life of the cavemen is wonderful. Poor skinny people who got little bits and pieces say that the hunting team is not something they could join even if they wanted to. People get angry that Jin did not help in any way, but still shares their booty without any shame. They got it all with hard work. How dare he calmly take this food? They do not understand why they share the booty with him equally if he brought only fruit. Everyone starts screaming that it's not fair. They had already started complaining to Uncle Long to watch Jin. He was interrupted by Uncle Long himself and ordered not to say anything else to them, and that this was the rule of the hunting team. Jin had joined them, and they should treat everyone the same. Yang tells him that even when they were injured, they continued to fight. The second elder also interrupts them and says that today is the first day of Jin, and then asks Yang if he remembers how he brought the mouse on his first day, that it is justified that it is better than dragging just an ordinary fruit. Annie yells at everyone to be quiet and says that thanks to Jin they all managed to hunt in the northern mountains. If they continue to talk like that about him, he will never forgive them. Yang calms down and obeys. He says that Jin is still a child and needs encouragement. They should believe in him. Uncle Long agrees and says to wait until tomorrow. He is sure that his efficiency will increase. On the second day, Jin carefully considers his actions. He ties a rope on a tree branch, then digs a hole, singing along to himself. Cover this hole with small twigs. He plans everything. Because there is a forest and a field, then the animals must definitely pass here. He draws on the ground all sorts of formulas of attraction. Weight, takes into account all the laws of physics and calculates the probability. He says that he must also properly prepare the water for him. After many calculations, he says that now his plan is sound. Clouds and dead birds keep coming. He comes again with 2 apples. Uncle Long asks in bewilderment if this is his today's prey. He smiles and says that everything is correct. He eats one himself and throws the other into the bowl with prey, saying that this is for the rest. Uncle Long carefully asks if he thought about catching wild animals instead of fruit. He replies that he needs time. He tells everyone that, moreover, eating meat all day long can lead to high cholesterol. And then he says that we need to start dividing the prey and stop talking. Someone from the crowd asks what is cholesterol. Jin takes his share of the huge meat. Along with it they give him his own apple. He rejoices and says how great it is that his precious fruit was distributed to him. While everyone was actively catching animals, getting injured, Jin was still designing his trap. He is again asked where his prey is, where is at least his fruit. Jin shakes his head to indicate that he has nothing. He asks them not to worry and give him 2 more days, and then he will bring the booty. In truth, it will be more than all of them put together. The man screams, he can't believe it. Jin takes his huge meal again and walks away satisfied. The crowd gets even angrier. Odin says he will go to the Aggle because he has to kick Jin off the hunting team. The crowd gets angry. One says he's sure he can find more fruit than Jin brings. They agree with him and say that they can too if they try. They add that Jin does not help at all. Jin is enjoying his meal at this time and thinks that in a couple more days he will be able to finish setting them up. That blue-haired one from the Yao clan gets angry and destroys everything around. He says that 3 days have passed and still nothing happened to the Yan clan. He realized that these people from the Yan clan tried to deceive them. Others in the clan are also indignant that this is unheard of. They can't let them get away with it. They turn to Lai, that is, with the blue hair, and offer to fight them. Others support him and say that they will let them feel the power of the hero of the Yao clan. Li says that they don't have to hurry and that they should go meet the Aggle first. He says that all the wars of the Yao clan have already been restored. Now the Yan clan is not even worthy of mention. And that tomorrow they will understand who really owns the northern mountains. They gave them part of the northern mountains, so it is their duty to protect them. Jin with a bag goes to his clan and says after a sigh that he is so tired because of today's work. He asks the others how they are doing with the production. They look up and realize that something is wrong. He asks what happened. Everyone sits in front of him in wounds and bandaged limbs. One says that the busy man is finally back and asks how much fruit he picked today. They are angry that they didn't see him when the Yao clan attacked them. Where was he? Jin is surprised and asks when did the Yao clan attack them. Uncle Long puts his hand on his shoulder and asks him not to worry. He says that he is not to blame. He should blame him, the leader who could not stop them. Uncle Long says it's a shame because they took half of their people away from them and left them with these cattle. Giant is angry and doesn't understand how they have come such a long way to their clan. Uncle Long tells him that Jin should be careful from now on when he is heading to the northern mountains because the Yao clan might be there. Jin wanted to say something to him, but Uncle Long tells him to have a good rest and leaves. At this time, Mudaka wakes up after a long cough. An old man comes up to her and says that she has finally woken up. Next to her, the girl says that she has not yet recovered, so let her be careful. She slowly comes to her senses and the last thing she remembers is how the tail of the snake hit her and she lost consciousness. Her eyes go wide and she asks how long she slept. How is the trail of mountains and seas? The old man answers her that the trail of mountains and seas ended 5 days ago. The asshole wonders if she was really unconscious for 5 days, how it all ended then. At that moment, everyone bows to her and congratulates that Lord Deluma agreed to visit their tribe and teach her the ancient art. She doubtfully asks if she won. She remembers Jin and gets out of bed. She is asked why she now wants to go to the Yan clan. She says prepare to leave. Why go to the Yan clan? She says she held a Dalu ceremony there but didn't give him a badge. She is told that she has not yet recovered and that she is going to follow the master to learn the ancient art. They ask her to leave such a minor matter to them. The asshole is angry that they consider this a minor matter. Meanwhile, Jin looks at the area and says that strength is just right. He looks at the grid, inside of which there are a bunch of stones, and says that this carrying capacity is quite enough. He wonders if he should make this slope steeper. He says it's finally over. He rejoices, saying that the Azura dragon from the east, the white tiger from the west, the scarlet bird from the south, the black tortoise from the north, a complete embrace of air, earth and water, that this is all his part of the earth, starting from today. If one comes, he will kill one. If two, he will kill two. He suddenly loses his balance and falls. He understands that the sound comes from a certain place. He looks out from the bushes and sees wolves with 3 red eyes. They look at the panda with great appetite. Jin recognizes a national treasure, a large giant panda. He ponders. He has met a national treasure. What should he do? The wolf swings its huge paw and hits the panda, but the panda deflects the blow with its paw, and their collision causes huge winds and upheavals in nature. The second wolf enters the fight, but the panda calmly just throws them away with a big cheat. Tianjin is simply shocked by the performance. He does not understand where this kung fu panda came from. After the panda has dealt with the 2 wolves, he looks back at Tianjin with suspicion. The panda starts growling. Everything around her turns dark purple. Jin immediately comes out of the bushes, understands the hands and greets the panda, says that he passed by and did not want to disturb her. Panda looks at him for a long time, and then turns forward with a sigh. Jin thinks the panda is looking down on him. He grabs 2 wolves with 2 paws and goes on. Jin remembers his trap and yells for her to wait. But before she can, the panda falls into the hole with the wolves. Jin ends his phrase that there is a trap, which he finished in the morning. He looks down at the hole and sees a panda lying on top of the wolves. He notes that she has such a big belly. He assumes that she is pregnant. The panda gets up and Jin says that it looks like she didn't get hurt from the fall. The panda starts to climb the wall, but slides off. She tries again and again. Jin tells her that it's not so easy to climb up because the pit has steep walls. He laughs to himself, because ever since this kin managed to jump out of his trap, he has been studying it. A panda with sparkling eyes looks at him. He wonders if the ancient panda really knows how to act cute. He says that it is not possible to take this problem, but to make her his prey. He doesn't finish his thought and sighs, saying that, after all, he protects animals. The panda points with 1 paw at the wolf. Jin immediately understands what she wants to say, namely that she will share her prey with him. Jin tells her that he wants everything. The panda shakes his head in denial. The panda shows the number 6 with its paws. Jin understands this is 60% of all prey and notes that the panda knows how to bargain, and asks not to worry, because he will not take her prey just like that. He asks her to wait here and leaves. After a while, she comes back and throws some plant at her and asks if he would give it to him. The panda picks up the fruit and does not understand what it is. Jin wonders if he's never tried it. The panda bites off the fruit and realizes that it is delicious. His eyes sparkle, and he continues to eat with great appetite. Jin says he recently saw a panda eating bamboo shoots. Panda shows thumbs up that she liked it. Jin says it's all settled then. He throws a net so that the panda can get off. As soon as she picks out of the hole, she gets angry again. But as soon as Jin shows the bamboo shoots again, she calms down and pretends to want to eat her. Jin asks what is it? Is she really hysterical? Does she really want more bamboo shoots? He tells her to follow him, and he will show where there are a lot of them. Suddenly, she starts eating just some plant. Jin yells at her that they are not sprouts. Panda immediately pounces on him. Jin says that she is getting impatient since all the bamboo shoots are underground. He takes a shovel and tells the panda to watch him dig it up for her. He digs up a shoot for her and tells her that this is the right way to get the shoots. He takes out a few pieces for her. She happily gives him the wolves. Jin laughs and says what it's called mutual benefit and asks her to come back. Panda leaves. Jin looks at the wolves and says that this should compensate for a small part of the clan's losses, and that he cannot carry it alone, and that he must inform Uncle Moon. Suddenly, he hears someone laughing and talking about whether they saw the faces of the people of the Yan clan, and that it was something. It is Lai who says that the Yan clan will not withstand even one blow from him. Jin hides behind a tree and thinks that he was afraid not to find them, but they themselves came to him. The Yao clan advances and says that these people from the Yan clan have no chance to stand against Lai. They agree with him and say that Lai is the strongest, because he alone defeated a good half of the hunting team. The third laughs and says that as long as Lai is with them, they will not be able to take the northern mountains from them. Li interrupts them and tells them to be careful because they are close to the center of the northern mountains, because the monsters from the center are much stronger than the ones in the outer ring. All this time Jin was eavesdropping on them. He says that if they so want to die, then he will gladly bury them, and that today he will witness the power of engineering. One person steps on a rope and is immediately hung upside down by the leg. Everyone starts screaming that this is an ambush. They panic what they will do. Lai tells them not to worry because it is definitely someone from the Yan clan. Someone says that if they use such a technique against them, then there should be few of them here, they can just attack them. Li says we need to split up and catch this jerk. The man who is trapped asks them to rescue him. Meanwhile, Jin uses other tricks and says that this trap is too weak and he needs to increase his strength. 3 more people fall into the trap. They scream, asking to save and help them. The 2 standing aside are worried. One says that everyone is in trouble. The other tells him not to worry. Just let him be careful and watch where he goes. He doesn't finish the thought because they step on the trap and fall into the water hole. Jin rejoices and says that the traps being held up took them by surprise, which is great. He picks up the 1 remaining stone and speaks. That apparently only Lai was left. He was also the one who took their totem pillar. He says that he will take good care of him and offers to test his newest trap, which is called the Invisible God Pit. Some kind of hollow flies at Li, but stops him with his elbow. In the next second 2 huge stones fly towards him from different directions. He pushes them away and shouts for them to disappear. He does not understand who is doing all this. He trips over a stick on the ground and aggressively stomps on it, saying, does he really think that this will distract him, even if he does not dream? In the next second, the rope breaks and a barrel of honey pours right on him. He begins to get angry and earnest and shouts, whoever is doing all this, let him come out right now. It turns out that Jin greets him and asks if the sweetness of honey is not equal to the sweetness of love. Li recognizes him immediately. Jin asks if he is surprised, confidently says that the northern mountains belong to the Yan clan. Does he not know that they are forbidden to invade their residential territory? Li says that this patch of land they cheated on will soon be theirs again. Jin clicks and asks why he should return the land he rightfully conquered. Li tells him that he is not as eloquent as he is, but he has only achieved by force what he has now, and today he will find out who the real master of the northern mountains is. He starts to get angry. Jing says that honey is able to maintain beauty and youth in them. Besides, he, in his opinion, helps with constipation. He says it's like a gas station for guys and a beauty salon for girls. Li screams what he's talking about. He says he wants to say that even if he doesn't like it, others definitely like him, the bear monster that stands behind Li. Behind Li is an iron-clawed bear. He starts to growl, and a joyful Jin is waiting for the performance, eating his apple. Meanwhile, the people from the Yan clan are walking through the forest. One says that the people from the Yao clan are overdoing it. How dare they steal their food? Uncle Long suggests that they go to another part of the northern mountains for now. If this continues, they will not survive the winter. They hear a growl and say it is the roar of an iron claw bear. Odin says that's great, because they haven't had much prey lately, they can hunt him. Uncle Long immediately realizes that this is where Jin always comes. He calls them all to follow him to save Jin. Meanwhile, Jin sits on a tree and yells for the bear to hit Lai with a left uppercut. The bear and Lai fight. Lai uses his totem pillar in a frenzy. His entire body is covered in stones. Jin yells that it is a low-grade malphite, i.e., a giant stone monster, which is the character of the game. The bear is scared of Li. Jin says that if the Yao clan's totem is earth, he is so in control of a huge stone. Li strikes with a racing in that the bear simply bounces back, catching the ground with its claws in parallel. Li takes a huge rock and throws it at the bear. After that, he throws off all the stones from himself and falls to one knee with a broken breath. Jin says this totem power has useless abilities. A bear paw comes out of a pile of stones in even greater anger. Jin stands up and says that's enough and that their show will end here. He shouts that they do not move anywhere and do not leave, and that now his punishment is pursuing. He knocks with his stick and they fall into the invisible pit of God. Jin rejoices that this is a multi-murder. People from the Yan clan run towards him. They approach and freeze in shock. Jin asks them not to approach them. They look into the pit and see that both the Iron Claw Bear is there and Lai of the Yao clan is also there. They laugh that this fateful day befell the Yao clan. But then someone takes an extra step and falls into a trap. Uncle Long yells at them not to move, and that he will save them, and Jin yells at him not to go there, but at that moment a pillar flies towards him. After the hit, Uncle Long lies in a foggy mind by a tree, and Jin walks away awkwardly, saying he didn't do anything. At some point, Lee wakes up and does not understand where he is. An angry bear stands in front of him. He opens his mouth and approaches Lee, who stops him with his bare hands, holds him by his teeth. Blood flows from his hands. He pushes the bear, he falls on his back, but immediately gets up. The bear attacks Lee with rage. He was already waiting for his fate. But the bear stops, trembling all over. Lee sees that the bear has been stabbed with swords. Jin yells at him if he likes the deluxe set made just for him. Lee yells at him to fight him one-on-one. Jin says he won't dare, but he, Lai, can fight in this pit as long as he wants. Lee asks if he really thinks that Lee can't get out of this hole, and that he underestimates the tribe's hero. Lee climbs, but after each attempt, he falls backwards. Jin laughs. Does he still have powers, and that Lai's abilities are pretty good? As soon as he grabs the edge with the words that he will get out of here and then Jin will receive from him. Jin says that he seems to have mentioned that Lai completely relied on his strength to get to that title. Lee tells him that against real power, his childish tricks are useless. Jin Gai is a huge rock and hits Lai with it. Lai does not let go of his hands, and even with the bumps on his head, he furiously asks how he dared to hit the tribe hero like that. Jin swings the bat, but Lai dodges, but lets go of one arm in the process. Lai tells Jin that he wants to fight him. Then Jin delivers a second blow, and Lai simply falls next to the bear. Jin tells him that the northern mountains are now theirs, and if he continues to make a mess, that will be his punishment. Lee yells that this is nonsense, because they got the northern mountains by cheating them. Jin yells that he not only cheats, but also steals. He asks Lee if he likes to talk about power, so today he will show him what territorial sovereignty is. After a while, Jin pours water on Uncle Long, who wakes up and immediately asks what is happening. He replies that they will chat later. He offers to get rid of this guy from the Yao clan first. Jin leads him to the pit. He wonders if he has taken control of him too. Uncle Long realizes that the whole Yao clan hunting team. He asks in surprise how he did it. Jin tells him not to worry about it and offers to deal with Yao Lai first. He yells at Lee, asking for forgiveness for making him wait, after which he tells Uncle Long to show him his full power. Uncle Long agrees. Lai becomes alert and realizes that it is Long from the Yan clan. Uncle Long activates the power of the Yan clan's totem pillar and summons fire. Jin asks with a smirk if Lai sees this, and if he continues to be arrogant, then he can be fried as well. Lai starts screaming how dare he threaten him. He is Lai of the Yao clan. Jin interrupts him by cleaning his ear, saying that this is already enough and that he already knows that he is a warrior and is not afraid of death. He has heard this a million times. Then he asks what if he says that all the people of the Yao clan who came here will not come back alive. Lee screams that he dare. Jin then with a smile invites him to check it out. Finally, Lee grits his teeth and says that they will leave. Jin yells at him to say it louder. Lee yells that they will leave the northern mountains, so let his people go. Jin asks if it's fair that they stole their loot and hurt their people, can he just let them go? And he says that he will give them twice as much booty as the one they stole. Uncle Long tells Jin that he has already agreed so they can back off. Jin yells that this won't do. They can't fully believe his words. What will they do if they go back on their words and attack downstairs as soon as they let them go? The two stand in shock. Finally, Jin declares that he is going to make a birth contract. They do not understand and are surprised by the whole situation. The short-tempered member of the Yan clan rebels that these are vegetables. Again, these vegetables. He wants to eat meat. Huey is reassured and told to wait. They can eat meat after the hunting team returns. Huey yells if they want him to wait for the hunt team to return, only to see Jin gorge himself freely. Are they trying to piss him off? He grabs the collar of another man, who in a panic says that he did not mean it. Yang comes out of the room and asks what is happening here. Huey asks what Yang needs. He says that the hunting team will be back soon and that they have quite a lot of loot. Huey yells that he's so mad that Jin gets the same amount of booty as them. Yang says the Agalu is protecting him. What can they do? Huey says they can't let him take advantage of the big harvest this time either. He yells at everyone that letting this sucker go on like this is bringing disgrace to the hunting team. After these words, he invitingly asks if he is right. The crowd supports him and says that this coward has no right to be on the hunting team, and that they should kick him out. Huey with an angry expression raises his hand. Clenching his fist, he says that is well said, so let them go with him. He declares that today they will not back down. They call him Brother Huey and shout that they are right behind him and it's time to finally teach him a lesson because he did not like this child from the very beginning. At this time, another part of the clan stands at the gate and rejoices that the team of hunters is returning. One asks the other if she heard that today's prey is quite juicy. She rejoices, because it means that they can finally eat properly. Odin points his finger at the hunting team and asks everyone to look. He has never seen so much prey before. They carry a huge bear, wolves, and many small livestock, such as wild boars. At the top of the bear lies a relaxed Jin. They come and put all the prey on the ground. It turns out that the Agalu himself smiles when he sees such prey. Uncle Long bows before him and says that today the hunting team did not disappoint the Yan clan. He reports that the total is 9, and they are all huge beasts, the largest number they have ever had. Agalu says that they did a good job. He repeats that they are just fine, have worked. He calls everyone to share the prey, and says that the members of the hunting team can choose first. It turns out that Huey asks the Agula to wait. He says that before they divide the booty, they need to tell him something. The elders ask what it is Huey and Yang are doing. Let them hurry up and retreat. They nod their heads to each other and start shouting, demanding that Tianjin be kicked out of the hunting team because he can't do anything. But he still eats everything, and that the hunting team does not need such cowards. Uncle Long asks what they are going to do. Huey tells the Aggle that since Jin got into the hunting team, he has not brought a single piece of meat. They should not give him even a piece of meat today. They agree with him and say that he did nothing, so why is he treated as an equal? So they do not agree with this. Uncle Long asks you to wait and listen to him. Huey says that he doesn't have to say anything and that they can't take it anymore. Yang agrees and says that the Agalu allowed Jin to join the hunting team out of his kindness, but he let everyone down. Yang says that at first he wanted to teach him some hunting techniques, since he is still young and it is his first time in the mountains. But this Jin does not know gratitude, because he constantly cheats for food, without any effort at all. Even when the Yan clan was attacked, everyone risked their lives, but Jin hid. Huey screams that he got this injury risking his life for the sake of the Yan clan, for the sake of the tribe. He shed his blood and achieved some merit. But what can Jin do? And he himself answers his own question that Jin can do absolutely nothing. Uncle Long yells, trying to stop them, that this is a misunderstanding. Huey interrupts him and says that they are not wrong. Who will accept him if he is not punished? Anything anyone says today will not be enough to calm them down. The crowd yells that this is true. They are unhappy. The warriors of the Yan clan are not afraid of death, not to mention a glorious hunting team. How can someone like Jin be part of a hunting team? The elder tells the Aggle that they are right about something because everyone is unhappy with Jin's actions. Uncle Long tries to intervene and asks to listen to him. He says that everything is not as it may seem. The elder tells Lun that he does not need to protect Jin. Let him listen to the Agalu. Huey yells that just being kicked out of the hunting team is a great success for him, because not only did he fall behind, he also took prey without helping the hunt in any way, so they want Jin to kneel in front of everyone and apologize. Jin comes down, hearing his name. He asks if someone is looking for him. He is told to go down immediately, and that they will not let him go today. Agalu wanted to start talking, but Lun asks to wait and listen to him. He shouts that all today's prey, every single animal, is the work of Jin. He proudly stands on a bear. Everyone is just in a huge shock from such information. They froze, opening their mouths and opening their eyes wide. Uncle Long says that Yan Jin dealt with those 2 hefty wolves with one hand. Jin says it's only 2 puppies and that it wasn't difficult. He stands on 2 wolves, putting his hand to his head to look at ease. He says that these 2 wolves are fierce. They break branches and drips in their path and move at the speed of light, but compared to him they are just 2 huskies. He is asked what a husky is. Yan Jin says he doesn't like to brag, so they can figure out the process for themselves. In fact, in his head he imagines like 2 predatory wolves with sharp teeth. But with just one blow, Tianjin himself was able to repel the 2 at once, that they fly far away from him, and this is where their battle ends. The crowd change their minds and change the direction of the conversation. They speculate like one man against 2 hefty wolves. How is this possible? The other says that this is impressive and that they never thought that Tianjin had such amazing abilities. This is said by people with multicolored hair, one with green, the other with yellow, and the third with purple hair with a bandage on their heads. Yang is asked by the others what they need to do. Yang says in a sweat of his face that he is on the hunting team and that hunting is exactly what Tianjin should do. The crowd says that Yang is right, it's his job, and that all he did was make up for the loot they lost a few days ago. Huey yells that in addition, when Lai of the Yao clan attacked them, he hid like a turtle in a shell. Another adds where Tianjin was when Huey was injured during the battle against the Yao clan. Huey says that if Tianjin had been the one who met Lai instead of them, he would have fainted from fear. He goes on to say that if this hero of the Yao clan was not so strong, he would not be able to defeat them so easily. Here Uncle Long interrupts and says Lai and his entire hunting team were caught by Tianjin. Jin immediately tells them to control themselves. Huey doesn't believe it and says that it's impossible to do all this on their own, so it's all nonsense. Uncle Long says that half of the loot here is compensation from Lai. Tianjin asks him to be quiet. Uncle Long enthusiastically points out all the loot and continues to praise Tianjin. Uncle Long goes on to say that not only did Tianjin do that, he made him enter into an ancestral contract and swear never to become enemies. The crowd wonders if this little Jin is really capable of something. Did he really take care of the tribal hero and forced him to conclude a tribal contract? They do not believe that there is a person in the Yan clan who defeated the tribal hero. Huey says it's impossible. Earlier in the northern mountains, when Lai was sitting in the hole, the members of the hunting team had gathered. They are all waiting for some kind of action from Li, who is holding some kind of sharp stick in his hands. He sheds his blood, it flows down. Uncle Lun says that this is an ancestral contract, and that the oath given to the ancestors by his totem will blind his soul. Even if he dies, he will not be able to go against the promise. Even such a powerful wizard as Delumu will not be able to terminate the ancestral contract. Lai puts his hand on his heart and says that, using the totem as proof, he is the hero of the Yao clan. Yao Lai, making an oath to the ancestors that from now on, he will not feud with Tianjin. He also says that he provides double compensation for the booty stolen from the Yan clan, and will never set foot on the northern mountains. He then says that if he does not fulfill the oath, the power of the totem will destroy his body and destroy his soul. A certain talisman with ornaments of an incomprehensible form is formed from his blood. This talisman flies straight towards Jin's hand. Returning to real time, he shows everyone this ancestral contract made between him and Li. Everyone is in shock. Some still do not believe that this is a birth contract. Some see it for the first time. And someone says it is incredible. Besides, Jin himself is incredible. Agulu says he didn't expect a real birth contract. Ian yells from the crowd, "What is it? What's so special?" He says that this sucker has been spoiling for so long. Does he really think that he can restore the prey just because he was lucky this time? And that they will not accept it. The same people scream that even he is so strong. He only cared about eating and drinking his fill while the others were starving. Do they think they can accept someone so heartless? Do they forget how he was 2 days ago? They all not yet accept it. The little girl says that Brother Jing brought so much booty to everyone again. Jin smiles at her. Yang says that it's impossible that Jin shares his prey with someone. He only does what he eats. Let him stop pretending. Does he really think that he can use the little girl to convince everyone? An old man in the crowd says he's not pretending because he's been sharing his food with him for the past few days. Still in more shock freeze, the crowd begins to share information that he also shared food with them. He gave someone some meat. The little girl says that this is true, because Jin's brother shared his booty with her every day, and that he shared not only with her, he also helped other tribesmen. Yang, in anger and bewilderment, falls silent. The elders look at him, call him a child, and the little girl runs with small steps towards Tianjin, behind whom are dead wolves. A girl from the crowd says that it was only thanks to Tianjin that they were able to get so much loot. The man screams that this guy is just something. The second says that he knew that those two were scammers. Tianjin himself smiles awkwardly, scratching the back of his head with his hand, his eyes closed. The crowd starts blaming Huey and Yang. The bald old man yells that they shouldn't act so recklessly, and that Tianjin is such a nice guy. He wonders how they even had the audacity to say such a thing and demand it. Huey panics and begins to stutter and tremble to say that this is not so. He only assumed that he could do this. Yang also defends himself. He is already sweating. He says that this is definitely a misunderstanding. He looks around, hoping to find those people who initially supported the two of them, but he realizes that they have long since abandoned and left for Tianjin. Indeed, those three guys stand next to Tianjin and say all sorts of praises in his direction. One says that he deserved to participate in the Dalu ceremony. The second claims that Tianjin is simply gorgeous. The third agrees and says that Tianjin is the pride of their clan, and that from now on he is now their brother. Yang gets angry and yells that those three are traitors. They continue to praise and say that Yang and Huey plotted against him. The second adds that In his opinion, they were simply jealous of his talent. Huey, as soon as he hears this, starts screaming that this is not true and that Tianjin never awakened the power of the flame. What kind of abilities he might have. Uncle Long says that he has a lot of abilities, and then asks Huey if he really thinks that he was pretending all this time. He actually developed traps that are wiped all over the northern mountain. He continues to say that not only the hunters of the Yao clan, but also their own hunters fell into his traps. From now on, no one will invade their territory. They can safely hunt on the northern mountain. Tianjin spreads his arms and says with an awkward smile that they are just a couple of worms, and that just because of his young age. He is not that strong, so he has to use his brain. Huey and Yang, even more furious, can hardly contain themselves. Huey approaches Tianjin and wants to throw new accusations, but then his father stops him, punches him in the head that Huey is getting a bump, and tells him not to shame him again. Behind him stands Yang in fear. Elder Lu shifts his gaze to Tianjin, who panics and says that they can resolve this peacefully and that he does not need to resort to such a thing. Agalu is also starting to get scared. Uncle Lung asks the elder to stop. Elder Lu reaches out his hand to him. Tianjin tries to pull away. Lu puts his hand on his shoulder and says that it's not bad. Behind Yang, clearly expecting another, he stands with his mouth open. Lu tells him that he did a good job. Tianjin remains confused. Lu drags his son by the leg and says that shame on him, so let him go home and think things through. Agulu claps and says that it's all over and that today is the day of the great harvest, so there will be a feast tonight. All people shout and support him. Everyone dances around the campfire at night. Tianjin sits and eats meat appetizingly. Huey comes up to him with a bruised face. Tianjin asks what happened to his face. He stands in front of him with a huge lump and stuffed up nose so that blood does not flow. He starts stuttering and saying that he came to. He is interrupted by Tianjin and asks if he has come to fight him. He asks him to wait until he finishes his meal. He awkwardly says that he did not come for this. He came to tell him. Then Elder Lu pushes him and tells him to bow lower when he apologizes. Huey bows and asks for his forgiveness. Tianjin asks the elder, who is drinking something excitedly, what he is doing. He replies that he is already old. He cannot think sensibly and his character is bad. In his opinion, he notes that Oldie was right, and that he underestimated him. He starts bowing with his son and says that he is the true hero of the Yan clan, so they both apologize to him. Tianjin stands up, draws his sword and says that if they ask him to forget the past, then it's impossible until they let him stab. The crowd doesn't understand what Tianjin is doing. Does he really want to slaughter Elder Lai? Even if he does, it can't be. Huey starts to resist and his father Lai tells him to go away because he already apologized to him. Whatever he did, he won't resist. Tianjin swings his dagger. The crowd panics, thinking that he really wants to kill the elder. They ask Jin to wait, telling him to calm down. Tianjin stabs Lai's arm with his dagger. Huey worries about him. Tianjin takes something out of his pouch and puts it on Lai's hand. The crowd becomes angry that this scoundrel injected poison into the wound after being cut. Jin is called too cruel that he is so evil. Harshly, Li orders everyone to be quiet. He tells everyone that the wound has stopped expire. He was about to suggest something, but Tianjin interrupts him and says that this is his new invention, a super clotting drug. The mood of the crowd changes. One admires and says that it really stops the bleeding. The other says that this is a great thing. Tianjin hands him the bag. Lu's eyes sparkle. He asks if he really claims that this powder stops bleeding instantly. Tianjin says that it is, and he specifically chose it to show everyone the effects of the medicine. Tianjin thinks to himself, have they never seen Yunan's medicine, a traditional Chinese wound healing formula that stops bleeding? Li takes the bag and rejoices, saying that the wounds are no longer terrible. Huey asks why he didn't cut himself then. Tianjin immediately glares at Huey and asks if he didn't know that doctors never heal themselves. They get scared. Huey stutters and says he didn't know. Lai leaves with the medicine and Tianjin puts his hand on Huey's shoulder and tells him to remember it if he didn't know. Elder Lu picks up the pouch and yells to his clanmates that with this thing, they can no longer fear injury. Everyone screams and rejoices at it. Tianjin says cavemen are so much fun. It's been 10 days since the hunt began, and the hunting team has already started using Tianjin's traps. On a hunt in the forest, a wolf chases and catches a rabbit, but along with his prey, he touches the rope and falls into a trap. The clan people are happy that this is the third catch of today, so they grab onto the prey and put the trap back in place. One guy thanks Jin because their hunting efficiency has increased significantly just because of his traps. They say this kid's traps are amazing because they can work on land, in the sky, and even in water. Someone calls them to him, saying that they caught one big one. They come to that very god's pit and laugh, rejoicing and saying that he can feed the whole clan for several days, and that the past prey cannot be compared with this. In the evening they bring a huge bull to the village. The whole crowd rejoices and welcomes Tianjin. One old man says that he thinks Jin is the most outstanding hunter of the younger generation. Someone jokes and tells him not to flatter himself. The third asks what he means by the younger generation. Does he really think that he can be stronger than Jin just because he is older? Someone else says that he thinks Jin will bring prosperity to their clan. Another adds that Long is training him to be the next leader of the hunting team. Another asks what he's talking about, what it means to be the next leader of the hunting team. Hasn't he heard? He finally says that it is obvious that the Agulu wants to make him his successor. People are surprised and ask if this is true. Suddenly, a great elder and a second elder appear behind them, asking if it's what they're talking about. They are frightened. They are scolded to watch the words, because they cannot pronounce them blindly. Lu says that they are right, because this child is very capable. The second elder asks him if he agrees with him. Lu replies that there is nothing to talk about, because he is the one who can ascend. If this child can, then he will become the successor. They look at the big bull and how people enjoy their food. The man who cuts meat for them says that today's prey is not so bad. 3 large predators and steel ones. He says that they overdid it today. He explains that it's not that bad, but asks if they could reduce the amount of loot. Tianjin with an offended expression asks why. Is a lot of prey a bad thing? That old man was about to say something, but Grand Elder Lu comes out and asks why they need to reduce the amount of prey. Because before they were starving, now that they have plenty of food, how dare he even complain? Lu tells Jin not to listen to him, because the more booty the better, let him not hold back, because the great elder supports him. Jin thanks him, but says that they must listen to him. After these words, someone abruptly falls to the ground, writhing in pain. The meat he had in his hand also fell. They approach him and ask what is the matter with him, is everything okay with him? That old man says that that's why they should reduce the amount of prey. Because of eating meat, more and more people start to get sick. Jin begins to think that he only focused on improving the effectiveness of their hunting methods, completely forgetting about the consequences. He thinks cavemen don't have a clue about food preservation. It spoils when there's too much of it, so he has to find a way out. Meanwhile, back at the Yao clan, an Agulu throws dishes at Lai out of anger. Li calmly tells the Agul that he does not agree with this. Agulu angrily and loudly slams the paper on the table and asks doesn't he understand that this is such a rare opportunity. Li says that they don't even know who this person is. He doesn't trust secret informants. Besides, these tricks are not befitting of a warrior's behavior. Agulu slaps the table and says he's had enough. He screams, asking questions. Does he really think that the Agulu himself wants this? Does he really think that only he has the honor? Because their fellow tribesmen are starving, they talk about their survival. Li screams that this will not work and that he will not participate in this. Agulu yells that if they don't like getting their hands dirty, let them get out of here. Li are left alone in silence with their thoughts. Some unknown people in strange attire come to the area of the Yao clan. Lai realizes that they are people from the Lin clan. He asks the Agul what is going on. Agulu replies that they want to help them fight the Yan clan. Li comes in bewilderment and does not understand. Agulu asks if he is going to accept defeat. Agulu takes out a map with the area and says that this map shows all the traps on the northern mountain, so they have nothing to fear. Li gets worried and asks what will happen if this card is a fake. They will only suffer then. Agulu claims that it is not a fake because there are people in the Yan clan who want to get rid of Tianjin. Li is already yelling at him that they can't agree because it's a betrayal, they can't cooperate with them. Agulu wanted to start talking to Li, but he says he's had enough. He declares that he will not participate in this. Agulu gets angry. Li sees people from another clan and tells Agulu that even if they are going to fight the Yan clan, they don't need their help. Is that clear to him? People from the Lin clan begin to annoy them with the words that the totem pillar they stole has been returned, and they are still shamelessly boasting. The other supports and says with a sneer that Li is the hero of the tribe. Li loses his temper and asks what he just said. A man from the Lin clan asks if they said something wrong. He asks who was beaten then, and then went home. Li starts to activate his power and scream that what happened to him is none of their business. His power begins to envelop people. They are scared, but one of them has dark energy. He comes forward and says that Li, as a hero with God's blessing, he must sacrifice his soul and shed blood for the clan. Then he asks if he is abandoning his mission. Li understands that it is darkness, that it is witchcraft. Suddenly, everyone begins to bow to him, calling the master a sorcerer. Li panics and does not understand why the Lin clan has a sorcerer, since they can only be found in the tribe. The sorcerer tells the hero of the tribe that he has not yet answered his question. Lee doesn't understand what the question is. The sorcerer asks why he is against it. Because he is his Agulu. Does he not know the consequences of the betrayal of the clan? Agulu yells that Lai didn't think well and that he is not going to betray the Yao clan, and then he turns to Lai and tells him not to be stubborn, because he can handle it. Lee shakes his head and says he won't do it. Agulu does not calm down and asks what he is saying. He kneels and says that it never crossed his mind to betray the clan, but he used the totem pillar as an oath and swore that he would never become an enemy of Tianjin. Agulu abruptly pulls away from him and does not understand why he did this. The sorcerer and the people from the Lin clan are also shocked. One of them asks who is this Tianjin? How could he get the hero of the tribe to agree to such a ridiculous oath? Agulu replies that this Tianjin is a child from the Yan clan who is only 12 years old. Everyone comes in shock upon hearing his age. The sorcerer asks if this is the boy who entered the test of mountains and seas with Mudaka. Agulu says that because of their carelessness, he set countless traps on the northern mountain and caused misery to their hunting team. He didn't expect him to force Lee into a birth contract. The sorcerer laughs terribly. His eyes glow bright purple. He says that he wants to see this amazing child. Meanwhile, Tianjin, together with the panda, plucks bamboo shoots together. He says that he realized that the bamboo sprouts are bigger, like a cauldron, than the fruit he used to give to the panda. He gives a huge sprout to the panda, saying that it is for her. The panda rejoices and appetizingly eats bamboo sprouts. Tianjin says that she can actually eat, and that she no longer eats meat because pandas have to eat bamboo. He notes that the giant panda really likes fresh bamboo shoots. Panda finishes eating his bamboo shoot and agrees to cooperate with him. Tianjin calls her to dig more bamboo shoots. As a result, they collect a lot of sprouts. Tianjin sits down on the ground, saying that he is so tired. Panda lies on these sprouts and also rejoices at what he has collected. Tianjin says this panda and he is nothing, can't help it because she's being too cute. Then he gets up and tells his older panda sister that he is returning to the clan. Panda says with her whole muzzle that she is sad. Tianjin tells her that he knows that she cannot bear to part with him, but there is no such meeting that would not end. He says that there is nothing to worry about and that he will come to her tomorrow. Unexpectedly, she hands him a bamboo sprout. Tianjin is indignant at his sister Panda because he worked for her all day, and she gives him only one bamboo sprout. Panda puts on a cute face again. Tianjin gives in and says that he will leave it as it is because she is so cute. He says goodbye to her and leaves, humming a song under his breath. Suddenly, someone calls him a boy and says that he must be having fun. He turns around and asks if they are from the Lin clan, and in response they shout to him that he will die today. Tianjin thinks hard, but does not understand why these people are here. Several dozen people surrounded Tianjin. Dozens of people with weapons surrounded Tianjin. A bald man from the Lin tribe tells him that he will not defeat them with his tricks. He immediately understands that someone gave them the scheme of his traps, which is why they managed so quickly. He puts his hand in his pocket. He can't let them take it. He throws new traps for everyone and shouts that they will see each other soon. They did not even understand what it is and what it does. One says who cares, so they just chase after him. These traps have already bitten off someone's leg. The head, that bald one, scolds them because they see the same traps, so they must be careful. This bald man throws a spear at Tianjin and yells at him to stop now. The spear flies right in front of Tianjin's face and sticks into a tree. Tianjin was already sweating because it was close. After that they all throw spears at him. He doesn't understand why they treat him like he's prey. He hides behind a huge stone, but even the stones crack from the spear. Tianjin screams, covering his head with his hands, that they are destroying the rock. People climb trees on ropes and move quickly, catching up with Tianjin. He realizes that he cannot run away from them. There are already several people above him, and finally one of them appears before him. He does not understand how they caught up with him so quickly. The enemy asks him where he is going. Tianjin wanted to run back, but more people from the Lin clan were standing behind. They already wanted to throw a spear at him, but suddenly someone wounds this man with an arrow, and he falls back. It turns out that Tianjin himself took out a weapon with many arrows, calling it all the probability theory of the crossbow. He shoots numerous arrows at people, shouting for them to get out of the way. While the bald man and his team fled here, all those already wounded by arrows lie unconscious on the ground. The bald man does not understand what is happening. Where is Tianjin himself? One wounded man tells the chief that Tianjin has run away, and that he is holding a strange weapon, so let him be careful. The leader gets scared when he hears information about weapons. The rest ask the leader what they should do. The chief reassures them, telling them not to worry because they are not the only ones following him. He yells sharply and gives the order to keep chasing him because Tianjin won't be able to run away from them. Everyone obeys and runs further to look for Tianjin. That sorcerer hides behind a tree, watches all this and concludes that this boy, that is, Tianjin, is interesting. It's getting late, the sun is setting. Tianjin is still being chased. They scream for him to stop already. Tianjin doesn't understand how many people they sent after him. In the end, they are already starting to use magic. The old man speaks to some sun and gives a command. He obeys and conjures a tree totem. As a result, sharp thorns come out of the ground. Tianjin panics and does not understand what kind of superpower this is at all. These spikes damage Tianjin, and he falls on his back and rolls towards a tree. He stands up and says it was close. Luckily, he has a shoulder pad to protect him. He looks at the pauldron, which is cracked, and says that if they can return alive, then by all means. He does not finish the thought, because the pauldron generally breaks into pieces. He hears the hum of people and says that they are not normal, and that he urgently needs to run. He pulls out a sharp tip with a rope while they run after him and yell for them to kill him. He throws it on the tree, and he, holding onto the rope, jumps up the tree. He stands with his feet on a branch, but staggers a little, saying that it was very close. People go to him, but someone yells at them to wait, stand still and don't move. The blue hair guy says he can't run away anymore. Tianjin holds out his hand, telling them to stop. He shouts that he is warning him to stand still, and if he comes, then his. He stutters, unable to find words, and then says that he will be cornered. The guy uses his totem power as a root attack. Roots come out of the ground, crushing all the soil. Tianjin realized that his trap did not work. The guy says that he saw the location of his traps. Did he really think that he had no idea about the huge pit? He then states that he is not like Li because he will fight with all his might against him. Tianjin says that he should take advantage of this. He will have to take advantage of it. Stalling for time is sometimes better than nothing. He originally wanted to use sky flowers, but it looks like he will have to use sky nails instead. He points his weapons at people and shoots heavenly nails. Those people don't have time to react. The chief yells at everyone to dodge, but the sharp nails still dig into their bodies. They try to defend themselves with their hands, but they still fall on their bodies, after which they bleed. The chief trembles and screams. Does Tianjin think he can defeat them? He declares that the Lin clan warriors are not afraid of injury, so he gives everyone the command to attack. Sun is talking about his mouth. He really swelled up and became more. The same happened to others. Sun asks, trembling and sweating, what is happening to them. Tianjin says that they are all under his spell. The soul they are chasing is half a step away from them, but if they take even half a step, then he will die. Tianjin yells at them not to move, and if he moves, he's done for. Everyone starts to panic, thinking it's magic. They tell each other not to move, not to touch each other. Everyone's mouths are swollen. Sun does not understand what to do, because he does not move. Suddenly, the leader comes and shouts that they have nothing to fear here. Tianjin already wearily realizes that there are still people there. The chief tells them to stay here and not move, and they will catch him and learn from him a way to neutralize the poison. After these words, the whole crowd screams and approaches Tianjin. Tianjin is on the run again. Those people whose lips are swollen stand without moving at all. Sun is asked what they should do. They are already sweating with might and main. They are trembling in a variety of poses. Sun tells everyone to calm down and that nothing will happen if they stand here. But people say they can't stand in that position for too long. Moon screams that even though they can't stand for that long, they just have to try. Do they really want to die then? One of them, who is standing head down, says with a trembling voice that he can no longer do this. He falls, hits another and creates a commotion. Trying to hold on, a person accidentally clings to another's clothing and pulls him down. They cry and scream that this is the end and that they will die. They are told to get up. One screams that they were moving, and that he is not ready to die yet. Another cries out that his child has not yet been born. He must see his child. And only one person, who sits in a comfortable position, repeats for the 100th time that he can do anything. Song yells at them why they are crying. A warrior must control himself, and that there is no place for cowards in the Lin clan. He makes such a speech, standing with their feet crossed, so that they listen carefully. Even if they die, they will die with honor. Let them fight like the last time. The Lin clan will be considered noble for a long time even if they die. Suddenly, they all stand up and shout that Sun is right. They are warriors. They will die with honor. A sorcerer comes to them and asks what they are doing. As soon as he appears, everyone bows to him. Sun says that the warriors are under a spell and that this is their last breath, so let him not interfere with them now. The sorcerer does not understand and comes close to Sun and sniffs carefully. And then he says it's bullshit. He says it's just bee venom and that Tianjin tricked them. Song becomes furious and says that he should teach Tianjin a lesson. Song orders everyone to catch up with Tianjin, and that they won't rest until they catch him. At this time, Tianjin is still running and does not understand why he cannot get away from them. Tianjin passes somewhere, on the sides of which there are iron bulls. The people from the Lin clan stop. One yells that they should not go any further because this is the territory of the Beast King, and if they continue, the Beast King will attack them. One asks what they should do then. One says that the thought is correct. Why should they be afraid if this boy has already entered? The leader says that he is stupid, and that boy does not know the full power of the King of Beasts. And apparently he does not know either, because this is the King of the Northern Mountain Beasts. The chief leader comes and asks what is happening, why they all stopped. And then he himself asks with surprise if Tianjin has really entered the territory of the King of Beasts. They tell him that he has entered, and then asks if they can't catch up with him. The chief gets angry and says that this boy, Tianjin, caused his clan to suffer huge losses, so they can't just let him go. He calls them all to follow him and yells that they must catch Tianjin today. Everyone listens and supports him. Meanwhile, Tianjin, leaning on his knees, exhales and evens out his breath, says that he can no longer do this, because the physical strength of a 12-year-old child is too small. In the next second, he hears screams. They will see where he is now running. He is still surprised and does not understand if they are still after him. The chief tells him to surrender dutifully, and that it will hurt a little. Tianjin thinks that this place is out of range of his traps, and that all his tools have been used. He does not have a crossbow with him either. After these thoughts, he exhales and says that everything is bad. Sun calls him a brat and yells that he finally found him. He ominously says that no one will save him today. The leader yells at everyone to stop talking nonsense and kill him. All at once and from different sides attack him with their weapons. At this time, Tianjin has such thoughts that it seems that today he will stop drawing life at the source of the eternal cycle, should he really be reborn again. He prays that next time he will not be made a child, and that he should be a prince. Suddenly all weapons are removed. The Luli step back in horror. A cute panda stands behind Tianjin, and the rest, in fear, recognize in her the king of the northern mountain animals. Legend has it that a fierce beast lurks in the depths of the northern mountain. He has great strength. His growl shakes the heavens and the earth. They look at the panda and are convinced that this is really a huge animal body. Sun trembles and says that those who defy him will be tortured and eventually killed. They recognize the monster by its black and white fur. They mention its ferocity. They shout that it is the king of the northern mountain beasts. Tianjin turns and sees the panda he was feeding. Tianjin asks with a smile if this little sister of his is so amazing. The crowd is perplexed that the King of Beasts is coming for this child. They are sure that they may not even have to lift a finger, and that this child is now dead meat. The leader does not understand. Is Tianjin crazy? Why is he approaching the King of Beasts? Sun says, does he still want to fight? Is he so scared that he went crazy? Panda and Tianjin wave their hands. Topa screams that Tianjin is mentally ill. Sun says that he will definitely be dead if he angers the Beast King. He offers to take the chance and run away. In the next second, they see them shaking hands and hugging. Tianjin says she bets she missed him so much after not seeing him for so long, and that she came just in time. Panda is cute with him. The people from the Lin clan simply open their mouths in shock. Tianjin seizes the moment and tells the panda that this group of bad guys did bad things to him. The panda starts growling and standing up. The people from the Lin clan huddled together in fear, not knowing what to do. The chief yells to everyone not to be afraid, because the Northern Mountain Beast King is just another monster, and that the noble warriors of the Lin clan are fearless. The chief points his axe at the panda and yells, don't they all want to kill this beast? Don't they all want to use his head as a symbol of their victory? The crowd, although trembling with fear, supports their leader, saying that he is right, that the warriors are fearless, and that this monster must be killed. Suddenly, the panda begins to growl in rage. An electric current radiates from her. Tianjin supports her, saying that she is the legendary Saiyan Panda. Panda grabs one person, shakes him, and then throws him into his crowd from the Lin clan. People arm themselves stronger and prepare to attack. But the panda moves at the speed of light, which Tianjin himself can barely hold on to and keep up with her. The panda is behind the clan. They do not even have time to look back, as the anger, similar to lightning and thunder, panda strikes them. The panda hits the ground with a huge paw, thereby causing terrible shocks in the ground. It splits, and the print of the panda's paw remains on it. The sorcerer himself sees how one of the people flies off on the ground. He watches as Tianjin praises the panda, saying that it was amazing. Can she also use the palm of God? He says that she is so strong, invincible, which is amazing to him. Panda is flattered and hugs Jin. Suddenly, Sun jumps in behind, calling the panda a beast. He swings and strikes, but his weapon only breaks in half. The panda slowly turns towards them and growls so hard and loudly that it sends Sun himself far away from him. The sorcerer, who has been watching them all the time, begins to collect some kind of dark magic in his hand, which is sharply noticed by Tianjin. He and the panda are looking into the distance, looking for where this source of dark magic is. Tianjin sees this hand. His face immediately expresses concern and panic, and he immediately shouts to the panda that this is very bad and that she urgently needs to dodge. He stands on the panda's shoulder, holding on tight, knowing that they are about to be hit. At the panda, which is now shining brighter than light, surrounded by blazing fire, a lot of dark energy is flying that accompanies death. This dark energy is reminiscent of the effect it had when they first noticed the approach of a long, sunless night. This energy seems to kill everything around, like the birds that died in the sky, after which only skeletons remained without any flesh. This dark force grabs Tianjin's arm and pulls. The guy screams in pain and tries to resist, but he falls off the panda and is being dragged away from the beast. The panda itself was also grabbed by these threads. In the next second, this force completely envelops the panda. As soon as the power dissipates, we see a panda, which is powerless and wounded, lying next to Tianjin. The people of the Lin clan get up and immediately wonder that the panda will not get up again. One is told to come up and find out, and the one who said this is asked why he does this himself. Suddenly, the sorcerer appears behind them and orders them to get out of the way. All at once line up and bow to the master sorcerer. The sorcerer looks at the panda and says that the king of beasts is a good material for making a puppet. Then he sees Tianjin's hand move and becomes angry that this boy is still alive. The sorcerer begins to use his power again, but the panda abruptly opens eyes and strikes the sorcerer with his paw. The sorcerer leans far back, rubbing the ground with his body. While there is time, the panda takes Tianjin and runs away. This is noticed by one member of the clan and informs the others, saying that they must quickly catch up with them. The sorcerer gets up and says that there is no more need to catch up with them, because the darkness has already swallowed them, so death is already inevitable. This monster was able to hurt him. Blood is coming out of his mouth, and the expression on his face shows that he is experiencing anger. In the dead of night, towards the high cliffs, the panda somehow brings water to Tianjin and sprinkles it on him. The guy still hasn't woken up. As a result, the panda lies down next to him. A certain black smoke comes from it in a huge amount, as if absorbing it completely. They are in a cave. From above, water flows in small drops from a sharp stone. After a few drops, it starts to wrinkle. His face has veins. A kind of ball forms at his forehead, which sucks out all the dark energy that the sorcerer gave them. Even the smallest particles of energy from the fingers leave him. He opens his eyes abruptly and stands up. He looks at his palm and asks if he's okay. Then he immediately looks for the panda, looks around and sees her behind him. He gets up and realizes that it was darkness. He looks around and tells her to wait for him while he gets him something to eat. He comes out of the cave and realizes that it is already so late. He looks up at the sky and sees dark energy enveloping the entire sky. This energy kills flowers growing on the ground. All of a sudden, all that power is directed towards him. He looks in shock and does not understand why it is to him. Purple eyes open in this heap of dark energy. Those eyes are swarming next to Tianjin. In a second, a huge foot with long claws steps on these little spirits. Slowly, a silhouette peeks out of this dark energy. Tianjin panics, but the next second, a growl from a panda is heard, which disperses this huge dark silhouette. Tianjin freezes and says that he left before the start of the battle. He looks around and sees nothing. He does not understand what is hiding behind this darkness at all. He approaches the panda, who is lying in agony, and asks her not to move, because she needs to rest. Panda makes different sounds. She puffs. Tianjin asks why she is awake. The panda gets up and goes somewhere. Tianjin asks if she wants to go there. He once heard that animals have their own ways of healing wounds and diseases. He wonders what is there. Finally, he says that he will help her. He climbs under her head and lifts with all his might. But he doesn't do much because she's so heavy. He's panting and trembling and sweating as he tries to carry her. He finally lifts her front paws and shows off, saying let him see how strong he is. The next second, he trips on a rock and falls face down along with the panda. Panda opens her eyes. Tianjin clenches his fist and tells her to relax and that this is a technical flaw. He gets up and picks up the panda, tears flowing from the panda's eyes. Together they slowly walk with great difficulty. Tianjin says she got hurt because of him, so he will help her at any cost. Plus, this is the first time he carries a panda. Where he came from, she is a national treasure. He thinks many would envy him now. He tells the panda to stay there because they are already there. They are approaching a place in the middle of which the head of some animal is shining, or rather, just the skull of some animal. Tianjin wipes the sweat off himself, then pets the panda and says that it's not so dark anymore. Tianjin turns his head and sees this skull, from which fire emanates. This skull is surrounded by chains and sharp stones. Tianjin says that he must be the one driving away the darkness. He asks the panda if she wants him. She nods in agreement. Tianjin goes up to the skull and tells the panda to relax. He is now getting this skull for him. The eye of the skull suddenly begins to sparkle, and it is as if it is being electrocuted. He leans back and falls on his back. Tianjin realized that this was some kind of barrier that kept people away from the skull. He gets angry and says that he won't buy it that way. He runs towards him again and falls back again with great force. He tries it a second time, a third, a fourth. He is shocked again and falls for the 100th time. Panda worries about him and sniffs. Tianjin tells her not to worry. He said that he will do everything to make her get better, and that even God cannot stop him. So he gets up with a bloody face and says that he will try to do it again. He gets up and screams that he will never admit his worthlessness. He prepares, aims and jumps with such force that his eyes light up. He climbs in and grabs the edge. As soon as he touches it, many beams of light pop out of this skull, and Tianjin himself is on one of them. He considers these better and understands that there are from 1 to 10 of them. He asks if this is puzzle of 9 tiles. He can't figure out if it's true that it's Luo Shu's test of 9 tiles. Of course, he doesn't hear anything in response, but then he looks at the skull and asks if he really wants him to solve this puzzle. The skull makes no sound. Tianjin confidently says that even if he has to fly to heaven or go to hell, he will still get him. He touches 5 beams of light connected by lines together. He says it's a neutral 5. At this time, the panda is still lying with a terrible look. Dark energy comes from it. He solves a puzzle in his head and lists out loud his conclusions that the neutral 5 is in the middle, the golden 4, the fiery 2, so the 2 and 4 are used as an intermediate. Suddenly, he begins to feel the heat and does not understand why it is so warm inside. He puts his hand to his heart and sees a blue fire that burns without ceasing. He asks if this is being played with him. He shifts his gaze to the panda and realizes that he has time. He screams that he will fight to the end. If he cannot cure the panda, then he will feed him to the dogs. He says aloud that this is a wooden 8, a water 6. He lists the 6 and the 8 again, saying that they seem to be correct, and then he names the 9 plates, because the 7 and the 1 are missing. After his answer, he was ready for anything. He covered himself with his hands, and then, with relief, began to examine himself. The same skull appeared before him. He asks what it is. He notices that his wounds are being healed and says what a relief it is. He takes this skull in his hands and says that Panda's sister was right. He walks up to the panda, holds out the skull, and asks him to tell him how to use it, because there are no instructions. Suddenly, the eye of the skull begins to sparkle even brighter, and all the rays spread over the panda. As soon as this better passes through the panda, all her wounds, protruding veins open up and heal. Tianjin is glad that it really works. He even had tears in his eyes. He pets the panda and tells her to lie down here and that she will get better soon and be the #1 Kung Fu panda again. But first she needs to get better. Suddenly, under him, he notices the blood that flows from under the panda. He immediately drops the skull, and from the skull now comes not red fire, but blue. Late at night, when there is no one in the forest, the wind spreads throughout the area and touches the flowers. The Yan clan's village is in turmoil. Uncle Long says that he asked everyone, but no one knows where Jin might be. He suggests that the Agul gather a hunting party and search the mountains. The elder asks if they haven't already searched everywhere. This boy has so many tricks that he is not watching them now with a laugh. Uncle Long says they searched all but one place. He says maybe Jin is stuck in the eastern mountains. Agulu continues his thought and says that if Jin has been there all this time, that means when the darkness falls. The other elder shouts that the darkness is too dangerous, so the boy can. The other one tells them not to worry like that, because they don't know what's wrong with him yet. He says that Jin is much smarter than his peers, so even if he is in those mountains, he is sure that Jin can get out. He shouts that now is not the time to chat. He offers to gather people and immediately search the mountains. He also says the need to carefully walk through the village. Uncle Lun obeys him, but he abruptly stops him and says that he will call a couple of reliable people from their hunting party, the Agul, and the other elder do not like this, but the second one grins at the whole situation for a second. Meanwhile, in the cave, Tianjin was covering everything under the panda. All the material was absorbed by the blood, but he says that the bleeding does not stop. He breathes heavily and sits next to the panda. He doesn't understand what's wrong. The darkness has already disappeared. Why doesn't the blood stop? If the blood doesn't stop, then he doesn't want to think about it anymore. He strokes the panda and tells her not to worry, calling her sister again. He says that now he will go look for her drugs to stop the bleeding and cure him. Let her just wait for him. He leaves, looks around on the way and confidently says that he will definitely save her. He comes out of the cave and wanders through the forest. He plucks the herb and says, looking at it carefully, that this herb can stop the bleeding. He climbs a tree and plucks some plants that look like clouds. He says that these fruits will contribute to recovery. He also does something in the water. Apparently he catches fish. He runs to the panda and yells that he has returned. But all the things that he has collected fall sharply from his hands, because he sees that the whole earth under the panda is covered in blood. Plus, on the paw of the panda lies a small panda child. This child is lying and snoring. Tianjin thinks that the panda was having contractions and that she did not fight off the attack of darkness for the safety of the child. He holds out food and tells her that she needs to eat and drink to get better. The little panda is already smiling and climbing on his mother. Mom panda opens her eyes a little. Baby and mom sniff each other. In the next second, the bald baby panda immediately begins to grow up and acquire soft fur. The little baby starts crawling on Tianjin. He asks if he is as strong as his mother. Panda is very cute and looks at Tianjin with incomprehension. He picks up the baby and shows it to Mom Panda, saying that she now has a baby. He says that he became like that in the blink of an eye. In his opinion, in a couple of years he will become as glamorous as she is. The baby and mother touch each other's noses. The mother begins to lick him. Tianjin says that the little one needs to grow up quickly to become the same super panda as his mother. He begins praising the panda, saying that she moves like the wind, glows like a volcano, and is hard as a rock, and that people call her the king of beasts. He picks up the baby panda and says that when her mom gets better, the Yao clan will worship her, especially the guy in black. That's what he says about the sorcerer. And with him, that is, with the baby, given his relationship with his sister Panda, he will share food, and that when his mother recovers, they will first eat bamboo. Tianjin says he thinks the baby panda has never chewed anything before. Then he turns to the panda and asks what she thinks about it. But the panda does not react at all. Tianjin panics and tells her not to scare like that again. He leans against her and realizes he can clearly hear her heartbeat. Tianjin just thinks what he's doing at first. And then he remembers that he brought her herbs. He will cook everything now, so she must wait a bit. He pulls out various herbs and distributes them, saying that these are for bleeding and these are for inflammation. Behind sits an excited baby panda. You can see from Tianjin that he is panicking and does it all with excitement. He turns and tells the little girl not to worry and that his mom will be fine and that he will definitely help her. He will prepare these herbs for her. When she eats them, she will take a nap, and after that she will be as strong as before. The panda makes a sound. Tianjin is glad that she woke up, but she is still lying there, exhausted and shaking convulsively. Tianjin is seriously scared. He haltingly tells her no waves and that she would be alright and that he would cure her. He explains that this absorbing darkness, he got rid of it, but it just weakened due to contractions. Baby panda crawls on her and licks and flatters her in every possible way. The mother panda licks the baby back. Tianjin says that if she eats well and rests her body, she will get better after a while. In the next second, the mother panda pushes the baby away from her. Tianjin asks what she is doing with a trembling voice. He asks why it looks like she is giving her baby to Tianjin to be raised since she will get better soon, so let her take care of him herself. Panda just looks at him. Tianjin gets angry and punches the ground. He starts screaming that he said that he would cure him and that he does not care if she does not trust others, but she must believe in him. He continues to scream, sobbing in parallel that the Dalu ceremony, training in the sea mountains, the wild beasts of the western mountains, and the guys from the Yar clan, nothing will break him. There is nothing that he cannot solve. He screams at her through tears that she must stay strong just a little more, let her just be patient. He will go and take more herbs for her, because she must take care of the child. She must raise the next king of beasts of the western mountains. Next to him, the baby is spinning and spinning. Mother Panda touches his nose to him and licks his forehead. Tianjin keeps saying that she will not die, and suddenly she falls sharply on her side. Tianjin's eyes fill with more bitter tears as he hits the ground with his fists again and again, screaming that this can't be. He screams at the top of his voice through sobs and sobs. The panda is dying. He looks at the panda with great pain in his eyes and says that it is all his fault. He remembers all the pleasant moments with her, how she rejoiced when he gave her bamboo shoots. As he said that he knows how she is not happy about his departure, but any party ends sometime. And if she wants, he will drop by to her tomorrow. He says through tears that he shouldn't have said that. His tears fall loudly on the ground. He screams that if she doesn't want the party to end, then let them go back to that little mountain and eat bamboos to their heart's content. He asks her to open her eyes and he will collect all the bamboos of this world for her. Baby Panda sees Yanjin pouring out and walks over to him. He licks his nose very gently with small movements. Yanjin opens his eyes, takes the panda's face in his hands and says that he is still with him. He says aloud that the panda told him to take care of him. He strokes the baby and says that he still has so much to do, so he does not have time for tears. He sharply recalls the culprit, the sorcerer, and tells the deceased panda sister that although he did not manage to save her, the one who killed her will pay for it. He swears to God, he doesn't care who the man in black is, but let her be sure, for everything he has done, he will pay with blood. He clenches his fist and says that he will pay even if he is a sorcerer. He sighs heavily and says that his panda sister saved his life, let her not worry. He will definitely fulfill her last request. He firmly says that he will take care of her child and raise him to be as incredible and strong as she was. He digs up the earth with his hands and shouts that as long as he breathes, no one will ever hurt him. He aggressively throws out patches of earth with his hands. The next minute, the panda finds himself in a large hole with a calm look, folded with his paws on his stomach. Sitting on the edge are her baby and Yanjin himself. Before doing anything, Yanjin grits his teeth, takes a handful of earth. He says goodbye to the panda and throws the earth back into the panda's hole. He screams that he will keep his promise to her. After some time, the panda was buried, and a thick piece of wood with an inscription about the panda's sister was placed over her grave. Yanjin strokes the baby and offers to say goodbye to his mother. Yanjin folds her hands in front of her and says that she will live forever for them, specifically in the Yan clan. Then he takes the baby panda in his arms and tells her not to worry, because he is respected in the clan, so she will live well with them. Then he puts the baby on the ground and says that he needs to pick up a frightening name so that everyone is afraid to offend him. So frightening that everyone pronounces it with fear. He thinks carefully and diligently and remembers the combination of Guo Bao, which means national treasure. He lifts the panda in his arms and says that from now on he is now Guo Bao. He puts the panda on his neck and says he will take him home. As they walked, Yanjin notices the same skull that is still blazing with blue fire. He picks up this skull and says that it is very useful in fighting the darkness, so he better take it with him. In the next second, both the baby panda and Yanjin himself freeze, looking at the eye of the skull. He recognizes some words in the fire. Various poses and silhouettes are shown on this eye, as well as many words and signs. Yanjin wonders, does he show martial arts moves? Suddenly, Yanjin's eyes light up and he says that this is a secret manuscript with cultivation methods. He wonders if this is a legendary divine cultivation art. In the evening, when the sun sets into the sunset, there is some kind of turmoil in the Yan clan. A senior elder with a long thin beard in a panic enters a certain chamber and shouts to the moon, "Is the hunting party was attacked? What does it all mean?" You can see from his face that he is excited. In a room in one corner, one warrior sits unconscious against the wall. He has a weapon in his hands. Only the Agalu itself stands confidently with a formidable look. And on the ground lie Lung and the rest. Uncle Long is shaking all over as he tries to get up. Elder Lai is standing next to him, worried about the whole situation. And on the other hand, another warrior is lying unconscious, all in bandages. Long says in desperation that he is useless. Not only did he not find Jin, but he also let the hunting row suffer so much. Elder Lai tells him to stop talking like that, because he has wounds all over his body, so he should not move. And in general, according to him, he is lucky that he was even alive. Agalu, also worried with a frown, asks Lun to tell him exactly what happened. Lung stands up a little and straightens his back. He says that that morning when they went to the mountains, they immediately managed to find the signs that were left by Jin, and they were also pieces of his clothes. He tells further that then they were attacked from an ambush. He then says with a bated breath that the ones who attacked them were the Lin clan. Elder Lai is already twitching at such information, and Elder Yanni generally drops his stick on the ground, not believing it. He says it can't be. Elder Lai turns and asks if it is him. Long also goes on to say that in addition, the Lin clan knows the locations of their traps, so they managed to bypass all the traps they set for them. That elder screams, "How is it possible? How could they know where they are?" Lung says he doesn't know. They resisted with all their might, so many of their people managed to get away. The elder wanted to say something to the Agel, but he asks what about Jin? Is there really no news? Lung replies with regret that they told them that Jin had already been killed. Everyone freezes in horror and shock. They do not want to believe. Elder Yanni stands all agitated and restless. There is silence. Suddenly, one of the warriors comes in and informs the Agul that he has bad news, namely that the Lin clan is moving here, and that they are going to attack. Everyone freezes. Li says that they really came. He thinks out, so this is their plan. Lung turns to the Agul and says that all their warriors are wounded. Where can they get the strength to fight? Agulu thumps the ground with his stick so loudly and declares that there is nothing to be afraid of. Agulu shouts that if they are so afraid, then what will become of their clan members, because the entire top of the Yan clan is here. Uncle Long can't believe his ears. Agulu Yan raises his parka and shouts that he, Yan, swears by the fire totem that as long as he lives, he will fight anyone who dares to challenge their clan. All the warriors bow. The Agulu shouts for all the warriors to follow him. Everyone supports and follows him with weapons, shouting Hadam. Meanwhile, the Lin and Yao clans are descending from the valley. They are heavily armed, banging their shields with sticks. The heads of the clans are walking on wolves. The Yao clan's Agulu addresses the Lin clan's Agulu and says that the battle is about to begin. So why hasn't his hunting party returned yet? That Agulu first thinks, and then says that the master of the sorcerer had his own plans for them. Agulu Yao asks what his plans are. Agulu Lin pats Agulu Yao on the back, showing the warriors, and asks if he is worried that there are not enough people here, because this number is definitely enough to defeat the Yan clan. He doesn't answer and thinks. Agulu Lin says to stop worrying. He offers to talk after the Yan clan is destroyed. Agulu Yao agrees, and then raises his hand and calls on the warriors of the Lin clan to destroy the Yan clan and restore them to their former glory. Everyone is screaming and supporting. Agulu Lin shows his smirk as he stands behind Agulu Yao. Meanwhile, in another area, Li fights hard with someone, out of breath, asks what it all means. He yells, "Didn't they sneak attack on the Yan clan? Why did they come here then?" It turns out that the people of the Lin clan attacked the Yao clan. Odin says that the master sorcerer thinks that they can be attacked from behind, so he sent them to protect the rear. The talking man smiles slyly, and Lai, the hero of the tribe, irritably repeats about protecting them. Then they show how they tied one of the people to a tree. Li screams, so this is how they protect, because it was they themselves who attacked on the sly. A man from another clan calls Li a brat and speaks irritably that he can still stand even after being beaten by the people of the Lin clan. Another explains that he is the chosen warrior of the tribe. He is not easy to kill. The first person says to stop talking nonsense. He offers to attack everyone together and kill this hero of the tribe. Everyone agrees with him and obeys. Li asks again what else to kill him, but he begs them, saying sarcastically, if he dies today, then they will go to hell with him. The enemy is yelling at everyone to be careful, because he is furious, so don't attack one by one. Li starts running very fast and yelling for them to get out of the way. They begin to realize that they were tricked, and that Li is running away. He gives everyone orders not to let them leave. He runs away and realizes that he must tell his Agul that the Lin clan has betrayed them. Sweat flows from him, and after his run, traces of dust from friction remain on the ground. Tianjin holds a skull in his hands and wonders if it's some kind of cheat codes. Suddenly, the eye lights up and the light begins to pour out, enveloping everything around Tianjin. Suddenly, a beam of light hits Tianjin's forehead. He starts yawning and just falls back along with the panda. Panda climbs on it and carefully sniffs and licks, not understanding what happened. Tianjin feels like he is in space, in galactic space. He wakes up and finds himself floating in the atmosphere. He slowly opens his eyes, rubs them with his forearm and rises, straightening his back. It turns out that he finds among the stars and all those silhouettes that were visible on the eye of the skull, now next to him. He stands up to his full height and wonders what this place is. He sees a huge black hole, from which these golden silhouettes come. He does not understand where this black hole came from again. Suddenly, right above this black hole, a large silhouette appears, and not just a silhouette, but his full-length silhouette in equal size with his body. Tianjin in bewilderment continues to look, as if at his own shadow. Tianjin looks down at the black hole. This hole slowly rises and stops right between them. He does not understand where she is from. He looks at his own silhouette with his hand and realizes that his hand passes through him. Suddenly, the silhouette and the black hole approach him and seem to be absorbed into him. In the next second, he seems to be sighing with all this and feels as if he has been filled. He looks around and realizes that neither the silhouette nor the black hole is nearby. His eyes now burn with blue fire. Meanwhile, battles continue in the Yan clan. Agulu Yan yells at Yao if he understands the consequences of their actions. Next to him are warriors, viciously set to fight. Agulu Yan keeps screaming and compromising that winter is coming. They can't afford conflicts. He then asks if they really want to get hurt. Agulu Yao and Agulu Lin, standing on the edge of the cliff, shout to the Yan clan that here and today only they will suffer here. Agulu shouts angrily and threateningly that at first they stole the totem from them, then they hired people to attack their hunters, and now they are attacking their entire clan. Then he finally asks if they are not afraid of the punishment of the gods. Agulu Yao screams what kind of punishment they are talking about, because the gods have never protected the weak clans, as, in his opinion, the Yan clan, because only the strong hunt with dignity in these lands. He believes that the Yan clan is not worthy of it. Agulu yells back at him, do they really think that the Yan clan will tolerate their insults? Agulu Lin tells Agulu Yao to stop talking to this old man. Agulu Yan sees the head of Lin and says, is Lin really behind all this? Because he organized an attack on their hunters, and now he is going to them with the Yao clan. He asks what is his plan. Agulu Lin calmly says that he is not here because of the hunting grounds. Agulu Yao agrees with him and says that this is exactly the case. Agulu Yao shouts at them, addressing the people of the Yan clan, so that they know that all their lands and totems belong exclusively to them. The people from the Yan clan and the Agulu himself just boil with anger, ready to attack. Agulu Yao gives them the condition that either they obey and become their subordinates, or they all die. The people from the Yan clan furiously shout at them that they will see if he repeats this speech after he opens his jaw. Everyone agrees with him and says that it is right, they will kill him. Another shouts that the Yan clan will never forgive such humiliation. Then Elder Lai sees that the Agulu is already seething with anger. He says that he, Yan, an Agulu of the Yan clan, swears to the gods that he will never allow anyone to say bad words towards his own clan. Under the flames, his clothes disappear, his eyes light up with fire. He shouts that the Yan clan warriors will never retreat. They will fight for honor. Everyone follows him and shouts in support of the word Hadim. Everyone runs after Agula Yan to attack. Uncle Long of the Yan clan yells for his warriors to go forward and that it is time to reclaim their honor. The people from the Yao and Lin clans are simultaneously advancing on the Yan clan along with wolves and huge weapons. People from the Yan clan are surrounded by their enemies. Elder Lai and Yan's weapons are blazing with fire, vicious words are shouted at them to die. There is a terrible war. Everyone is shouting to each other to die and receive from each other. Numerous people fight with each other, striking with swords and sticks, inflicting injuries and harm on each other. Thus began a war between the Yan clan and the other two, namely Lin and Yao. All the enemies are advancing and breaking into the Yan clan's village with the whole crowd with sharp swords. Brave guys shout to them that if they have courage, then they must fight them one-on-one. How cool they will be if they attack with the whole crowd. Yang yells at them all to come, and then he will test them one by one. Fire comes out of the hands, which brings heat and burns. Enemies laugh at his words. Does he think it's just a crowd? Another yells at them that their clan of losers will soon go to their forefathers, and that they have no right to test them. After the words, one of the enemies shouts to his warriors to send these brats, in their opinion, to their ancestors. Evil and sly smiles scream to get rid of their hunting team faster. They all obey and advance. Uncle Long, clenching his fists, yells at them that they are finished. But the next second, he moans in pain, puts his hand on his chest in the heart area, as soon as he is distracted by the pain that remained with him after the last battle. When the Lin clan attacked their hunting team in the forest, the current enemies kick him that he just rumbles on the back. Enemies confidently and contently walk towards the moon. One asks, because he, Long from the Yan clan, must be strong. This enemy puts his foot on Elder Long's head and asks, laughing, come on, why doesn't he fight him? At this time, behind the crowd of enemies rejoices that the Yan clan is already crushed. Someone else offers to finish off their warriors and enslave the rest. The whole crowd supports and obeys such an idea. Brave young men of the new generation Lai and Yang scream not to even dream, because they will not allow it. They stand confidently, gritting their teeth. Fire comes from their hands. Elder Long, lying under the foot of the enemy, sees a huge fire among a huge crowd and recognizes it as an Agula of the Yan tribe. He fights alone with the head of the Agulu Yao, with the Agulu of the Lin clan standing on the sidelines. He swings his arms, then kicks his legs, but the strong Agulu Yao only dodges the blows and annoys the Agulu of the Yan clan by asking if this is all he can do. Then the Yao Agulu uses his own strength as well and deflects a clean blow from the Yan clan's Agulu, throwing him far back, shouting that he, the Yan clan's Agulu, is no match for him, and calling him an old man. The Yan clan's Agulu lies exhausted on the ground, still blazing with fire. Agulu Yao, turned to stone, yells at him to stop resisting, let him look at the people from his own clan. If he does not stop persisting, they will all die, one by one. And all this, according to Agulu Yao, will only be the fault of the Agulu clan Yan. We see that even the strongest of the Yan clan fall and get hit. Agulu Yao says that the Yan clan is doomed to fall because the weakest clans were born to be subordinates of the strong. The Yan clan's Agula stands up from the ground, leaning on its arms, and then attacks violently, yelling for him to shut up. He parries the blow with his stone hand, but the anger and hatred of Agulu Yan caused him to suffer from his strong blow. The Yao clan's Agulu becomes seriously angry, and, raising his hands, punches the Yan Agulu in the jaw with his stone hand. The Yan clan Agulu does not react to this blow. His face only turned away and again now confidently looks at the Yao clan Agulu with angry and furious eyes. Agulu of the Yao clan screams that he took his blow with his face, then he asks if he does not want to live. The Agulu of the Yan clan screams in rage that even if he dies, he will take him with him to stand before the gods and seek his punishment. He stretches out his fiery hand and places it on the top of Agulu Yao's head. The old man waves his free hand and yells at him to repent for his sins. Agulu of the Yao clan in a panic shouts to Agulu Lin, "Why is he just watching? Let him go and help him." Agulu Lin looks at the sorcerer who appeared out of nowhere. The sorcerer nods and in the next second, the fiery hand instantly disappears from the head of Agulu Yao. The Yan clan's Agulu flies far away, hitting the ground again and again. Finally, having traveled a few meters with his body, he gets to his feet. Agulu of the Yao clan coughs convulsively. Nearby Agulu Lin twists something in his hand and tells the Agulu of the Yao clan that old man patted him so badly. After Agulu Yao clears his throat, he tells everyone to be careful because his techniques have been improved, because he really put his life on the line. He says that this one-on-one battle is not necessary. He must be crushed by the whole crowd. Agulu Lin suddenly says that he still does not understand why he, that is, the Agulu of the Yan clan, has not yet left the post of Agulu. He says, standing directly in front of the Yan clan's Agulu, that 10 years ago he could still fight, but how is he going to defeat them now? The wind soars between them, as if preparing everyone for a significant battle. It feels like it's just the two of them right now. 2. Agulu of the Yan clan is breathing heavily. His whole body is on fire. His hair is fluttering in the wind from different temperatures. Agulu Yao gets angry and screams that he continues to waste their precious time. He is already in despair, mixed with rage, screaming for them to kill him already. In the next second, Agulu Yao turns into a huge stone man, 3 times taller and more than one person. He growls all over, some stripes appear on his body. Everything around shudders from its size. The earth cracks and everything around becomes dusty. Agulu Lin tells him, increasingly annoying, that if he used his totem power earlier, he would not have been beaten so hard, and he would have remained without injuries and damage. He is breathing heavily and, as if ignoring his words, shouts for everyone to go forward and attack. Agulu Lin smiles, anticipating the battle. The Yan clan's Agulu becomes alert and mentally prepares to attack. Suddenly, the Yan clan's Agulu spreads its arms and yells loudly. Suddenly, huge wings of fire appear behind him. He jumps and immediately flies past Agulu Lin. Its wings cover the size of several people. After moving in the air, there is such a trace of a freshly burned substance. He aims at the Yao clan's Agula and strikes. The Lin clan's Agulu starts to get scared and panic that this old man is really going to kill them. He stands and watches what is happening. The Yan clan's Agulu delivers multiple blows in a fraction of a second to the Yao Agulu's abdomen. With every blow he screams and screams for him to die. After a few more hits, there is an explosion, and he flies back. As soon as he lands and gets down on one knee, someone behind him says that he really is getting old. Suddenly, that same stone hand appears from one side, but the Yan clan's Agulu manages to react and leaves the place, so a huge fist hits the ground and makes a hole. As he reacts and moves, a green spear flies at him. This spear guides the Lin Agul. The Yan clan's Agul realizes that it is a phantom spear. Suddenly, Agulu Lin conjures a spear to make it expand. From the old man Agulu Lin breathes the dark magic of the plant. His spear is accompanied by green plants. In the next moment, this spear digs into a place just below the shoulder of the Yan clan's Agulu. His hands freeze, he himself groans in pain, blood gushing from the wound. The Lin clan Agulu glares menacingly at the Yan clan Agulu, confidently holding his phantom spear in his hands. His brows furrow and his nose wrinkles. He speaks his final words so that this old man, the Agulu of the Yan clan, will finally go to his ancestors. A ghostly spear infused with dark powers pierces the chest of the Yan clan's Agul. He grimaces and turns pale in pain, making incomprehensible sounds of interrupted stable breathing. He raises his hand wrapped in fire and just cuts that ghost spear of his. As soon as he does it, he tries to fly away. But then the Yao clan's Agulu appears and holds two huge stone hands on his two legs. Agulu of the Yan clan beats these stone hands with his hands and understands that things are bad, because now he cannot free himself. With his entire body blazing with fire, the Yao clan Agulu can barely hold on as he feels his arms burn with the energy of this old man. The Yao clan's Agulu abruptly releases the old man down, causing him to hit the ground. He yells at the Lin clan's Agulu to hurry up. His ghostly spear flies straight into the face of the Yan Agul, but he manages to dodge the spear into the ground. In the next moment, hard plants with thorns begin to grow from the ground and bind the entire body of the Yan clan's Agulu, pressing him tightly to the ground. From the thorns, his body begins to bleed. As soon as his whole body was enveloped in a plant like a cocoon, Lin gives the command to the Yao clan's Agul to kill this old man already. On top of the cocoon, the body of the Yan clan's Agulu is still on fire. The Yao clan's Agulu grabs it with his hands and tells them to give up already because they are too weak. The old man tries to free himself and twitches. The Yao clan's Agulu tells him that there is no point in resisting, because the weak clans are made to subdue the strong. At these words, the old man's eyes begin to glow. Even though he does not dream that they obey them, he shouts that as long as he lives, the Yan clan will not die. After these words, a huge explosion occurs. Everything around begins to burn with fire. Agulu of the Yan clan menacingly tells him to listen here and says that the people of the Yan clan will never obey anyone. Stones fall from the body of the Yao clan Agulu. He runs out of breath and also sits on his knees. Here, the Lin clan's Agulu starts clapping and says it was well said. Agulu of the Yan clan gets to his feet. He says that after so many years, he is still the same, that he has not changed at all. Lin orders his warriors to show the Yan clan's Agul how his clan's people will obey them. After this order, the soldiers, to put it mildly, bring people bound by the hands and feet. The Agulu of the Yan clan sees his people bound and beaten. He is angry that the Agulu of the Lin clan actually did something like that. One of the warriors hits Elder Lai and asks if he is surprised. They got into his village a long time ago and captured all his people from his tribe. Elder Lai falls. The Lin clan's Agulu tells the entire Yan clan to listen to him, and if any of them resist, he will kill him. Everyone freezes. Lin starts his speech that if anyone resists, they will kill him. If they all resist, they will kill them all without a doubt. The Yan clan's Agulu yells at him that it's a shame that he doesn't even have a shred of military dignity left. Agulu of the Lin clan laughs. What other military dignity is he talking about? Because only the one who wins is called a warrior, no matter how it was done. The Yan clan's Agulu yells to beat the weak when they fall. Is that really his way? The Lin clan's Agulu tells him that he is right and kicks him, causing him to fly backwards, falling on his back. He asks the Yan clan warriors, don't they ever retreat? Why did their attack stop then? The Yan clan's Agulu stands up and calls the Lin clan's Agulu a non-entity. Enemies begin to beat the bound people of the Yan clan. One gives the order to beat them and let them feel the strength of the warriors from the Lin clan. They all start kicking and hitting together, telling them to defend themselves. He laughs and asks the elders if the two of them aren't great fighters, so why aren't they fighting? Elder Lai and Yan Yi take it to the fullest by trying to protect themselves from blows with their hands. Their faces writhe in pain, they twist and their sides get hit. They tightly close their eyes in fear, trembling and shrinking all over. That guy tells everyone to be ruthless. Meanwhile, the captured Yan people tell their Agul not to worry and that they will kill these enemies. Even old grandmothers tell him not to worry. The people who are carrying the bound ones begin to get annoyed by such words. He tells them to shut up, and if any of them say a single word, he won't leave them alone. Unexpectedly, one of the old men attacks the enemy, biting his hand, but he easily fights back and kicks the bound man, calling him old. He keeps kicking him over and over again, talking and asking how dare he bite him, so let him go to hell. Suddenly, one of the enemies orders everyone to fall on their knees. They resist and say that the Yan clan will never obey, and a dream turmoil begins. One boldly and confidently shouts to the Agul of the Yan clan not to worry, because there are no cowards in the Yan clan who are afraid of death. She keeps twitching, trying to free herself from captivity. Agulu of the Lin clan is watching her. Agulu of the Yao clan tells the sorcerer that the people of the Yan clan are fearless and that this method will not work for them. The sorcerer without any hesitation then gives the order that they kill these people. Agulu of the Yao clan is against this. He asks why kill, because this is their trophy. The sorcerer, without any emotion and with frightening eyes, turns to him and tells him to think about what he wants to get. Then he asks what a couple of subordinates cost him. The Yao clan's Agulu wanted to start resisting, but the Lin clan's Agulu gives the order to kill. Agulu Yao gets angry and wants to stop him. The Yan clan's Agulu yells, telling them not to do this. All the elders freeze in horror. Elder Yi lies and screams denial in horror. Second Elder Lai cannot believe his eyes. And the woman who gets hit, with tears in her eyes and excitement on her face, says her last words that the Yan clan will never obey anyone. The warrior behind her points his sword and strikes her on the back. Blood splatters from the impact. The woman falls face down. A woman is killed. The whole Yan clan is furious. People are crying. The Yao clan's Agulu tells the Yan clan's Agulu to surrender, for if he gives up his pathetic attempts at resistance, then he can certainly protect the lives of his clan members. And the rest of the Yan clan says to look at themselves, because they are doomed to defeat, and that their resistance is useless. The people of the Yan clan will become subordinates, and that this is the desire of the ancestors, their totem, their resources and people. All this will become a gift that is presented to them their progenitors, and that this is the only key to saving the members of the Yan clan. If they refuse it, then death awaits them. Agulu is silent for a few moments, and then turns to his Yan clan warriors, saying that this is his last order as an Agulu. Everyone listens to him carefully. He clenches his fists, sweat dripping from him. He tells his tribesmen to let go of their weapons because they must surrender to them. Agulu Lin raises his weapon and tells Agulu Yan that he must know the rules when losing a war. Agulu Yan says that he will not bother them and will do it all himself. He looks at his palm, which is on fire, and says that he is not worthy to be an Agulu of the Yan clan. Someone in the crowd speaks with a trembling voice, asking God to bless them and that the Yan clan will not die. This old man repeats these phrases over and over again. But in the next second, the spear, which was in the hands of the Agul Lin, digs into the chest of the old man, who asked for blessings from God. Even while bleeding, this old man keeps saying that the Yan clan will not die. Agula Lin himself is shocked and does not understand how this happened. Others start shouting that they will not be a burden to the hunting party, and that the fire of the Yan clan will never go out. The spears of other enemies also dig into the bodies of the people of the Yan clan involuntarily. The attackers themselves do not understand what is happening. Through tears and fear, they continue to shout to the Hatam and say that they will never give up. Blood is shed, everyone is slowly dying. Even people who have weapons in their hands resist and do not want to kill. Agulu of the Yan clan weeps. Agulu Lin turns to the sorcerer and realizes that all this is his work. The sorcerer tells him to kill them, because since they are ready to die, they must grant their wishes. The Yao clan's Agulu disagrees and says that if they wipe out the entire Yan clan, then they won't be able to capture the people. The sorcerer asks without emotion if they still think about it as Agulu. In his opinion, they really think so narrowly. Lin and the Yao clan look around, not understanding what he is talking about. The sorcerer begins his speech by saying that making their opponents fear them, making them bow their heads to him is the best way to crush the enemies. The Yao clan's Agulu says that, however, if they wipe out the entire Yan clan, what's the point of war? They won't get any benefit. The sorcerer intimidatingly says that this is an order. A man from the Lin clan asks his Agul if they are going to fight. Agulu of the Lin clan carefully asks the sorcerer if they are really going to exterminate the entire Yan clan. He tells them to look at these people. Do they see fear or submission in their eyes? The sorcerer tells Agulu Lin that he is too soft, and after that he still wants to be an Agulu. Agulu Lin is silent on such a statement of the sorcerer. Further, the sorcerer already says that today they are obliged to exterminate all the people of the Yan clan, and it doesn't matter if they surrender or not. They still have to kill them all. Agulu of the Lin clan obediently obeys him and orders his people to kill them all. Everyone obeys him too, and does what he ordered. The Yan clan's Agula sees people being killed and can't do anything. He screams through his sobs and begs them not to do this. The Yan clan screams that they will never lay down their lives and that they don't care about themselves. Elder Long lies covered in blood and pleads with a trembling voice not to go there. Elder Lai also weeps and asks God why this happened. Is this the fate of the clan members? Blood is shed profusely. People are killing each other. The Yan clan's Agulu stands up and begins to take turns saying the words Hulu, Bulu, Kaka. He says these words over and over again like a spell. The elder hears this and freezes as he listens to the Yan clan's Agulu say Hulu, Bulu, Kaka. Hulu, Bulu, Kaka. Agulu of the Yao clan asks if this is the sacrificial war song of the Yan clan. The Agulu of the Lin clan does not understand. Did they understand that their death is near, so they began to sing it? The elder summons all the people of the Yan clan. Everyone starts screaming, as if summoning a flame. Everyone utters these words through tears and about burning ashes, roaring flames. The flame from the body of the Yan clan's Agula turns black. Elder Lai yells that the Yan clan will never surrender. Everyone supports him and shouts 3 times that the clan will never surrender. The fire of the Yan clan's Agulu turns bright red. He screams that for the sake of the Yan clan, he will sacrifice himself and his soul, and that this is the resurrection of the phoenix from the ashes. His body bursts into flames. A tog emanates from him and goes straight to the sky. The sky becomes bright. The clouds take over these lightnings and pass them on to each other. At this time, Tianjin, together with the baby panda, run through the forest. He climbs a tree. Then he turns to the panda and says that he must remember that he has a strong mother, and that she is the king of the northern mountain seas. He must be very strong like his mother. Panda, as if understanding him, only licks his cheeks. Tianjin tells him not to worry, because he will provide him with everything that his mother did not give him, and then they will conquer the future together. He jumps from tree to tree and says that the sorcerer who wounded his mother is now like a corpse. Tianjin himself is distracted from the words, not hearing a warning from the panda, imprinted in a huge stone, which both he and the baby panda have bumps on their heads. Tianjin says that it hurts, and then looking at a piece of stone and tasting it, he realizes that it is salty, respectively, it is rock salt. He begins to think that there is rock salt in this place, and if they get this salt, they can keep their meat longer. He tells the panda that they should go and break the news to the clan. As soon as they leave with the baby, this huge stone cracks and breaks. At this time, the Yaolin clan's tribal hero runs to the Yan clan. As soon as he comes out of the fox, he will be very close to the Yan clan. He needs to tell the Agul about the betrayal of the Lin clan. He looks up and sees the sky turning black. He realizes that this is in the direction of the Yan clan. Has something really happened? Indeed, the Yan clan is on fire. Everything around becomes black. He has a dagger in his hands, and he is covered in blood. A red seal is drawn under it. The Aguls stand wary. Suddenly, a huge head appears from the ground, and not one head, but several. Agulu of the Yao clan speaks to Agulu Lin and says that this is an icy aura. This power is what throws people into boundless fear. He thinks that this is. He does not finish his thought from fear. The sorcerer says it's darkness. He tells everyone to look at his right hand where he holds a dagger. He assumes it's a relic of darkness. Agulu Lin and the Yao clan get scared and twitch. They turn around and see that the statue's eye has opened and it shines with purple light. Agulu of the Yao clan does not understand what to do. Lin does not answer this question. The sorcerer carefully looks and thinks that he sees 4 protective evils, 1 destructive eye, and then out loud tells everyone to listen carefully that these stone statues become stronger with each opening of the eyes. So he gives the order to kill the Yan Agula so they will stop the opening of the eyes. The sky is shrouded in dark power. The younger Li understands that this is a dark force. His grandfather says that the Agulu has plunged into darkness. The Yan clan's Agulu becomes like a monster. Its arms become huge paws with sharp claws. Agulu Lin yells that they have no choice. He tells the Yao clan Agulu not to hold back and that they must kill the old man. He obeys and jumps after him, also activating his totem. Agulu Yan sees that he is being attacked and turns around, parrying a blow from Agulu Lin. He realizes that he is absorbing the power of the totem. The Yao clan's Agulu clenches his fist and beats Yan's Agulu, but he defends himself with his hands and drives back. He opens his arms and starts growling like a monster. Behind him, the statue of darkness glows even brighter, the chains breaking. Agulu Yan grows fangs. His eyes turn red. The next second he grows horns. Agulu of the Yao clan says that this power is incredible. The younger Lai asks his grandfather how the Agulu became like that. He answers that after this war the soul of the Agulu will no longer be able to return to the ancestral home. Elder Yi also looks at the Agula with despair. Elder Lai says that if his soul is consumed by darkness, then it is much more painful than death. He tells his grandson Huey that the Agulu sacrificed himself for the sake of the tribe, for the sake of the clan. Agulu Yan really turned into a monster. He jumps on the Yao clan's Agula and simply cuts off his hand with his claws. Agulu Lin tries to defend himself with his spear, but his spear is snatched out by an old man, twisted and thrown straight at the Yao clan's Agulu. Agulu of the Yao clan realizes that the second eye has been opened, and that now its power is growing. Agulu Lin turns to the sorcerer and asks if he will not do anything. Agulu Yan grabs his head and growls even more. The third eye opens. Agulu Lin panics and looks around. There is an explosion. Both Agulu flies away from the explosion far away. Lin opens his eyes and sees Yan's Agula with fur and several tails. He is horrified by such a concentration of dark power. The Yan clan's Agulu now fully transforms into a monster. Dark energy of poisonous red color is spreading across the earth. Agulu of the Yao clan says that this old man is too strong. Agulu Lin asks if he can still fight. He replies that he can without problems. He too activates his power and now owns the entire totem. It kicks off the ground and attacks Agulu Yan, but he deflects the blow with only one fist and kicks him in response that he flies back. The people of the Yan clan look at their Agulu with sobs. They are awakened by the elder, saying that the Agulu sacrificed himself for them. Why are they crying? The people of the Yang clan cannot afford tears. He shouts to everyone that the Agulu sacrificed himself for them. Do they really want to repay him with their tears? He orders everyone to stand up and says that the only thing they can do is to repay the death of the Agulu. They get up and shout blasphemy, Bulu, Kaka, just as Agulu Yan himself shouted then. The Yan clan's Agulu hears the voices of his fellow tribesmen and crushes the stone body of the Yao clan's Agulu. With the clan's Agulu in the background, Lin yells at him to dodge. The Yao clan's Agulu stands up and marvels at his incredible speed. He stands up and attacks Yan, but Yan's strong hand hits him right in the stomach, blood gushing from the Yao clan's mouth. In a moment they freeze. The Yao clan smiles and asks if he can't move. The power of the Yao clan's dark totem increases each time. He says that this is his strongest form. Indestructible dark armor. The Yan clan's Agulu roars like a lion and strikes with his foot in the same place where he punched. His strong armor breaks, more blood flows from his mouth. He flies backwards, and as soon as he stops, he wonders how this is possible, how his dark armor broke in just one attack. Suddenly, Agulu Lin calls him. He tells him to stop his head in the clouds. He explains that his third eye has been activated and that it can't be dealt with on his own now. Lin orders him to stand up and offers to combine their forces. He calls upon the power of the ghostly tree. He says aloud that, taking extremely durable armor as a basis and using the power of a ghostly tree in order to modify them and revive the dark armor. He summons and uses a combined totem skill. The body of the Agulu of the Yao clan is covered not only with stones, but also with plants. A ghostly axe appears in his hands, and with it he attacks Yan's Agula in the hope that this time he must definitely die. Agulu Yan stops the axe with his bare hand, holding it by the sharp blade. He growls, showing all his sharp teeth. He twists this weapon in a frenzy. Agulu of the Yao clan does not understand how this is even possible, since he used only one hand against their combined power of the ghostly axe. Agulu Yan takes this axe and strikes it at the very Agulu of the Yao clan. He stays with the axe in his body while Lin yells at him to hold on because the ghost forest is almost done. The roots of the plant at the back begin to hold the Yao clan's Agula steadily. The ghost tree transformation occurs, and the royal stone shield is summoned. A huge stone wall appears in front of the Yao clan's Agulu. Yan's Agulu screams and growls, and then jumps straight towards the shield. Lin is happy that he got caught. He punches the shield and realizes his hand is stuck in it. Lin comes out and says that this is a stone royal shield, an alloy of Nosh wood and dark armor. He screams for him to give up, but the Agulu monster only gets more angry and strikes the shield many more times, using all its limbs. These blows pull Lin back, horrified that even he can't block him. He understands that they have no other choice but to use it. He yells at the Yao clan to join forces. Again there is a transformation. They scream and everything collapses around. He is being lured into a trap. The monster's arms get stuck in this wall, and the ground around it begins to separate from it and becomes directly above it. Agulu Yan tries to get out, but is unable to because he is immobilized. In an instant, all the earth that had been collected above him falls straight towards him, crushing him. Aguls are breathing heavily and waiting to see if he gets out. Lin puts his hand on the Yao clan's shoulder and says that they are using their powerful skills to protect the Lord and that they should just stop him. Lin looks up and says that they are waiting for the master sorcerer to complete his spell. Everything in the sky is thickening and getting darker and darker. The Yao clan turns to Lin and says that they sealed Yan, so why is he still resisting? Lin confidently says it's useless anyway. In the next second, the stones begin to crack, the face of Agulu Yan appears, and then the weight of the body, which was carefully chained to the stone. Those two don't understand how this is even possible. The stone just explodes, the monster is freed, everything is covered in smoke and dust that nothing is visible. Agulu Yan emerges from the smoke, holding two Agulus by the necks in both hands. They groan and twitch from lack of air. Suddenly, the fourth pillar begins to sparkle. Elder Lai says that the fourth statue is about to open its eye, and a third red eye appears on the monster's forehead. Lin through the pain says it's over. Suddenly, a black portal opens behind them, which begins to suck small stones into itself. The elder understands that this is the power of knives and shouts to the Agulu to was careful. In the next second, Agula Yan's hand comes off. All the elders freeze in a misunderstanding of everything. The dagger that was in his hand flies off, and the body of Agulu Yan turns into an ordinary human. He groans and trembles in pain. Then the sorcerer appears and says what a pity it is that he was late. All sharp fangs, horns disappear, it all decreases in size. The sorcerer grabs this dagger and says that he even dared to use the power of darkness, and notes that he has a lot of guts. He would never have thought that such a treasure would be in such a small clan. Agulu Yan says that this is his weakness because he can't even kill one person. The sorcerer asks that it should be an honor for him to become a sacrifice to darkness, and that compared to his insignificant gods, becoming darkness is the highest form of honor. Suddenly, someone comes to them and one of the warriors loses a spear from his hands. It is Li, the hero of the tribe, who draws a spear. Everyone turns around and realizes that it is he. Li throws this spear, the sorcerer sees and repels the blow, breaking this spear to smithereens. But Li then jumps from the side and with his huge hand strikes the sorcerer's hand so that the dagger flies away from him. The dagger falls to the ground with a sound and flies further, and the sorcerer angrily tells Li that he overestimated himself and attacks him. That Li also flies away from him, again and again hitting his body on the ground. The Agulu of the Yao clan comes and asks Lai if he has gone mad. Why is he attacking the sorcerer lord? Lai, trembling, tells the Agulu that the Lin clan has betrayed them. Agulu of the Yao clan doesn't have time to understand and ask what he means, as the spear goes right through his chest. Agulu Lin pulls back his spear and says it's good that he actually survived. The Yao clan's Agulu covers the wound with his hand and shouts that Lin has betrayed him. Lin laughs and says that he is not quite right. Did he not say that the weak is not worthy of the grace of the gods? He shouts that they are all insignificant clans, and that they will all be his stepping stones to ascension. Agulu Lin gives his orders to kill everyone, both the Yao clan and the Yan clan. Agulu of the Yao clan, all pale, asks if this means that the people sent earlier by Agulu Lin himself were used to attack them. Here, Elder Lai yells that the Lin clan still has an ambush. They are all arming themselves and preparing to fight again. But then something terrible happens. Lin does not understand what is happening. Someone is screaming that the fourth table has opened its eye. Further, we observe a picture that all four pillars combine their forces, forming a kind of connection. And all the power, similar to dark-colored lightning, is directed rapidly towards the sky.